Blog Talk Radio.
We Resistors.
Citizens of America, stand by. Clearing channel. Frequency stabilizing. Begin unauthorized broadcast. We Resistors Network is now broadcasting. Through Forseti, Loki King, the Druth About.
America. Hello, Patriots. How are you doing tonight? This is the We Resistors Radio Network, and you're listening to the Druth About. And as always, I am your host, Drew Forseti, with my good buddy, as always, Loki King. How you doing tonight, Loki?
I am excellent. How is everybody out there?
Well, we're getting a lot of crickets on that one.
Well, we are. So hopefully they'll be calling in, because I know you have a very interesting show going to happen tonight.
We do. We've got a really good show tonight, and I'm hoping we've got a couple callers already, so I'm hoping one of them is a special guest that I invited to the show tonight.
Well, I recognize one number, so unless they press the number one, don't go to that, because you'll get a rap. You'll get a rap.
All right. So, yes, and that's an important thing to make note of. If you are a caller into the show and you wish to speak to us, please press 1 on your phone, and that will give us a little notice that you wish to speak with us, and we will get right to you. If you don't push 1, we don't know you want to talk to us, and we won't be able to. Well, we could, but we just won't talk to you. Okay. So, real interesting weekend we had this weekend. Last weekend, I mean. We went up to Olympia. And myself and Brandy, who will be joining us here in a little bit, we went up there to discuss or to participate and cover the I594 protest going on up there. That was put together by Gavin. I think his last name is pronounced Seam or Syme or something.
So what is the I594? I know we've mentioned it on other shows, but what is that initiative all about?
Well, I594 was an initiative that was put forth by some of the wealthy Bloomberg-type people who are interested in just kind of taking away our gun rights. We'll put it that way. Let's not mince words here. They just want to take away our guns. So what I-594 is an initiative which was supposed to increase the effectiveness of background checks. And unfortunately, the way the law was written, pretty much anybody at all who is looking to use any kind of gunpowder fired equipment, whether it be a gun, a rifle, a pistol. Boy, my brain is just foggy tonight. I cannot seem to get my brain in gear tonight. But anyway, it doesn't matter what kind of device it is. If it's powered by gunpowder, you have to conduct a background check in order to pass that device off. So if, for instance, you wanted to look at my pistol, I'd have to conduct a background check in order to hand that pistol over to you for you to examine it. And then you would have to then conduct a background check on me in order to give it back to me, even if it's only 5 minutes later. So it's one of those weird things. But interestingly enough, it goes on further because it uses the word "or devices." This now is affecting the people who are in, say, the construction industry who use certain tools that are powered by gunpowder. They have 22 charges in them, for instance, to jack nails into the concrete. So, in fact, I've used those tools myself. I have, as a flooring installer, oftentimes I would need to drive nails into concrete, and it requires a lot of force that oftentimes the arm cannot do. So we use a little device that has a 22 charge in it. You hit the top of the device, it sets off the charge drives the nail into the ground. Now, what would have to happen is every time we needed that particular device, if we were installing flooring on a concrete floor, we would end up having to conduct a background check every single time that I wanted to use that device. My boss would have to conduct a background check on me, hand me the device to use, and then before I could give it back to him, I would have to conduct a background check on him. Now, here's the way it works. If I were to just pass the gun, say, to you, Loki, and you held on to it, and I didn't conduct a background check on you, then that's just a gross misdemeanor. But if you hand that gun back to me without conducting a background check on me, now we're both felons.
That's just,
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
Well, that's putting it politely.
Yeah. It's a weird law. But the whole purpose of the law, the way the law is written, is it's designed to tell people basically that we're coming after your guns. That's the only purpose behind that law. There can be no other reason because it's not an enforceable law.
No, it's not, and it goes totally against the Constitution and other things.
Well, yeah, it does. It violates the federal Constitution, of course, and it also violates the Washington State Constitution.
Yeah.
And this, but the thing is, while we were at the protest up in Olympia, several people violated that law multiple times in some cases. In fact, I'll be playing a soundbite tonight of a guy who violated the law multiple times, and nobody was arrested. Not one single person was arrested. Now, that tells me one of two things. It tells me that either they know that they cannot enforce the law, therefore it's null and void, or it tells me that they're going to engage in selective enforcement of the law. Now, if the selective enforcement is the case, I'm glad that I have some of the video that I have, because anybody who is a defendant on that, I will happily supply that video to, so that they can see that, so that they can strengthen their case with their lawyer in court.
We're always willing to help a fellow patriot and fellow friend.
Exactly. So, but anyway, that's going to be the subject of our show tonight. We're going to be talking about my experiences up there. And when Brandy arrives, she's running just a little bit late tonight. But when she gets here, she'll join us and share her experiences as well. And we're going to introduce you all to Brandy because, we'll announce that later.
Yes, we've got to keep something in the back.
We got to keep something. Exactly. So anyway. So before we get really hot and heavy into this Initiative 594, I want to make a couple of observations from my experience there about the police.
Okay.
Now, the police there were very well behaved.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if the reason the police were well behaved was because there were between 2,000 and 4,000 armed patriots there. And there were only maybe a couple dozen of the police there, if even that many, or if they just really understood that, hey, these are patriots. This isn't Occupy. This isn't Ferguson. This isn't anything like that. These are patriots. They're going to behave themselves. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, part of it could have been, and I still wonder, and I'm hoping we can do some further follow-ups with it to actually see if any of the officers actually really want to be held accountable for enforcing a law that is debunked from the get-go. Mm-hmm. So that could have been part of it, but I am sure you weren't the only one walking around with a video camera up there, and with all the video camera evidence on how police are getting out of control, maybe they're starting to wise up and realize that we can't just be bullies anymore. We have to actually do what we were supposed to be doing.
Let's make a contrast here. Let's look at this, excuse me, from the perspective of Olympia and the perspective of Ferguson. Okay? In Olympia, you have thousands of armed patriots there.
Correct.
And you have the police there.
Correct.
And the police did not draw a weapon, did not. The only incident that I saw between a patriot and the police was one patriot took his sign that he was holding up on the sidewalk for people who were driving by the road on the road there. Mm-hmm. He would hold that sign up. And one time he stepped out into the road, and the police officer told him to step back onto the sidewalk. The patriot complied. That was the end of the thing. The police officer walked away.
Right, and that's the way. I mean, that's the way it should have been handled.
Exactly, but Parrott, let's contrast it. Boy, my tongue, my brain. I'm just not here tonight. Let's compare it to Ferguson, where you have a bunch of people who are unarmed facing on cops.
Well,
and you notice the first thing that the police did was what?
Well, I'm gonna throw you a curveball because, in my personal opinion, you are trying to compare apples and oranges.
All right, pick any other protest out there where the police engaged the people. Every one of them, there were not armed patriots there.
Well, that is true.
Okay. Now, if the people in Ferguson had been armed, the police would not have dared to fire on them, because then they would have known that the protesters would start firing back.
I can see your point, but I still say it's not the right example to be using.
Okay. I'll concede that point, but like I said, pick any other one then.
Right.
Pick one. and it's still going to come down. The argument is still going to be the same. Where the protesters are armed, the police always behave themselves.
Right.
Where the protesters are unarmed, the police always engage in bullying tactics.
Right.
And suppression tactics. Wow, I'm having a hard time tonight.
I think a better example that you could have used that would be a closer comparison was probably the Bundy Ranch.
Bundy Ranch would be a very good comparison, yes. Again, the armed patriots were down there, and the armed police were down there as well, heavily armed police, I might add. And who backed down?
The police did.
Yeah, that's right.
At least for a while.
The government said...
Well, they're now starting to try to revive that whole situation, and I don't know how far it's actually going to go.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out with their new tactics. But that's going to be a subject for another show. Probably Chuck will cover that, or somebody else. That's not really my bailiwick. So we'll see who we can get to cover that. Excuse me. So. The other thing I wanted to point out was that the Patriots were so well behaved, there was not even so much as a napkin on the ground. When the protest was over and the Patriots left, that place was as clean as it was when it started.
That is the difference between civil disobedience or being polite, and standing up for what you believe in, and people that are just running amok and rioting, which only harms the community and the people that you live around or with in a society.
Yeah. It just really goes to show. And again, let's compare it to the Occupy movement. Okay, you notice that during the Occupy movement, there was raping, there was littering, people were peeing in the streets, defecating anywhere they wanted to. I mean, they just didn't care. They were throwing their trash everywhere, throwing their food on the ground. They didn't care, and it took days to get all that stuff cleaned up when they finally left. But every single Patriot protest or rally that I have been to has always ended up the same way. It's always been clean. Everything is left exactly as it was before the protest started. And and yet we're the extremists. You know, we're the bad guys. We're the ones that are out to kill your children and eat them and you know, what have you. And yet we're not the ones doing the raping. We're not the ones doing the pillaging. We're not burning down buildings. We're not throwing our litter in the street and pissing all over the place. You know, we show up. We're respectful. We're polite. Because everybody else around us probably because everybody else around us has guns too, and it just kind of goes to reinforce the old axiom that an armed society is a polite society, right?
Yes.
So,
yes.
Excuse me. So I could go on and on and on about that because I really I appreciate what the Occupy movement did. I don't necessarily agree with everything that they were standing for, but I respect that they did it, and I respect what they were trying to do. I support anybody who gets out there and exercises their First Amendment rights. Whether I agree with their cause or not, I'm going to respect the fact that they're doing it at least. But the Occupy movement, they gave protesters a bad name. What they did was just unconscionable.
Well, it goes down to respect for where you live, common sense, and common courtesy.
And that might be part of it, because in a lot of these cases, a lot of those Occupy protesters didn't live in the area where they were protesting at. In fact, I happen to know for a fact that at least one occupier in New York City was from here in Oregon. And I know that because I bought him his shoes, so that he could go, because he was actually going to bicycle all the way across country to attend that protest, and he did. And when he got there, he participated in it. Now, I don't believe for a minute that this particular person was one of the people that were a disgrace to their movement, because I happen to know the gentleman. He's a great guy, former Marine, just all around, good person all the way around. So hopefully he was not involved in any of the shenanigans that was going on during those protests. Excuse me. Now, officially, the mainstream media, as usual, played down the event and said there was only about maybe 1,000 people there at the event. Okay. When I showed up, there was already over 1,000 people standing there. Now, we got there a few minutes late because we were having problems getting the cameras and everything going. But when we got there, we were maybe 15 minutes late. There was well over 1,000 people there, easily. But I kind of just took a look around, took in the whole scene to see what was going on, and I kind of took a mental picture of what I saw there. And as I was going through the crowd, I kind of looked at faces and, tried to see, who was what and, who was representing what and what was going on with different people. And I was looking at the various signs and placards and what have you that were being held by the protesters. And I was just going about my business, conducting interviews and taking pictures and video and what have you. I noticed over the course of the day that a lot of the people that were there when I first got there were no longer there when I left. But the number of people that were there hadn't decreased. If anything, it had increased. So I am not buying into this, it was only 1,000 people there. Because I noticed over the course of the day that as people were leaving, people were coming in, and oftentimes more people were coming into into the protest than were leaving the protest. And I can tell you that the food vendors that were there, they did good business.
Oh, I'm sure they did.
They made a lot of money that day. In fact, I believe the one of them even ran out of food. It was just, they were really busy. I don't think there was enough coffee and hot chocolate, though, because it was a cold day. Bitterly cold.
Well, if you would have quit breathing up there, it wouldn't have been so cold. Oh, I'm sorry. You're full of hot air.
Yeah. Yeah, don't you know I'm the reason for climate change?
Yeah.
That isn't real. But anyway, so my estimate, based on how I understand how these things work, I'm going to estimate that there was around 3,500 people there over the course of the day. Now, at any given time, I don't think there was more than, say, 2,000 to maybe 2,500 people there at any given moment. But over the course of the day, I believe that at least 3,500 people were there in attendance, if even only for a short time.
Even a short little bit helps. So.
Yeah. Now, here's the thing. There were pregnant women there. There were families with young toddlers, with older children, some with teenagers. There were elderly people there. There were handicapped people there. There were people of every race, creed, color, religion, nationality, background, sexual orientation. It didn't matter. You pick for yourself whatever category of human that you want. Somebody was there representing that category. And it was wonderful. There was a man, I can't remember his name right now, had a rainbow flag, the LGBT rainbow flag, and it had a snake on it, and it read, "Don't tread on me."
That was Brandon.
Brandon, thank you. That's right. And so I stopped and I interviewed him too. We'll play a soundbite from him in a little bit as well. But it was really interesting because I thought he was gay. It turns out he was actually bi, and his wife was standing there with him, and his best friend, who was straight, holding another LGBT rainbow flag with a snake on it. So, but that was really interesting. He corrected me very quickly because I said, "Well, so you're obviously gay," and he goes, "No, I'm bi." Oh, sorry, my bad.
You cannot judge a book by the outside of the cover.
Oh, come on, man! He was wearing makeup and had earrings and everything. It was an honest mistake.
Yeah,
Come
so
on.
do you, but only late at night.
You're not supposed to be looking in my bedroom at night, dude. What's going on here? So, but the vests that I had made, right? And the vests on the back, the front said "We Resistors Radio Network" on it. Had my Drew Forseti logo on it. And on the back, it read, "Journalist, don't shoot." That was a message for the police because I was making fun of the fact that they were shooting journalists at Ferguson during the first Ferguson protests and riots that were going on. Remember, they were shooting the Al Jazeera News Network, and I think it was ABC was shot at, and I don't remember, but there were several different journalists that were fired upon by the police. And they were clearly labeled journalists. It was very clear. I mean, they had the big bright lights on stands. They had cameras. They had a reporter out there with a microphone in their hands, the whole nine yards. You could not know they were journalists. And yet the police were shooting at them anyway. Oh, gee, we didn't know those were journalists. Well, maybe if you'd start letting people in with the higher IQs, they'd know these things. So that was you touched on that topic on your show, didn't you?
I did.
Yeah, that was okay. Okay, so since we're talking about your show, let's take a real quick break and let's plug your show. Yeah, I caught you at the wrong time, didn't I?
Yes, you did, actually. Of course, my show airs on Sunday nights at 8 Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. This week, we are going to be discussing the health issues and restrictions that LGBTQ community people, those that I consider to be part of my inner circle, face, whether it be from health issues to mental health issues to the higher suicide rates, the lack of being able to get proper insurance or benefits. The list goes on, and we are going to have a very special guest on with us that will be able to speak a little bit, that runs a health food store and is a nurse practitioner.
No, she's not a nurse practitioner.
Whatever.
She's a therapist.
Okay, whatever. It's a label, and labels don't belong. But she will be coming at it from the health perspective, of how to do it naturally instead of putting all these chemicals into your body that the doctors are getting paid from the pharmaceutical companies, but they don't really know what these drugs do. Perfect example was when my mother was still alive. On one of her last hospital visits we had, the emergency room doctor came in to me and her and said, "Why are you on 6 different blood pressure medications all at the same time?"
All at once?
All at once.
Holy cow, what would she need 6 of them for?
Because her doctor was a quack.
Her doctor was just trying to make money is what it was. And it always comes down to that, doesn't it? It always comes down to money, doesn't it?
It does. It does.
Okay, so one of the things that I said that I mentioned was that I had witnessed several different felonies from different people. So I'm going to talk a little bit here. I really wanted to wait until Brandy got here to do this, but she's running a little bit later than I thought she was going to. But anyway, I'm going to play this real quick soundbite. It's a little bit more than a minute, but it's really interesting. We had a lot of fun while we were there. It wasn't all seriousness. We did try to have a little bit of fun with everybody. And this is one of the gentlemen that we had a little bit of fun with in committing felonies in the state of Washington. So we'll play this bite here real quick.
So far, I am a felon 3 times over.
3 times? Oh, dear goodness. What is this country
in the last,
coming to?
30 minutes.
All right. Excellent. Well, thank you very much
I'm
for taking a stand.
I'm hoping to break at least 10 today.
All right. A 10-time felon in one day. Wow.
Yeah.
Most felons created in a single event.
Okay. We'll make it 4. Here you go. Here you go.
All right.
You know, I
There
like
you go.
this is cool. This is cool.
It is.
Would you like this?
No?
See? There we go.
There you go.
There's 4. There's 4.
Awesome.
Does he want to make it 5?
Now, just so you know, I didn't show your face.
Here we go. Here's number 5.
Okay.
Here's number 5.
You can show my face, because right now, if you go to the state legislature's website, and look at the RCW, not changed.
Yep.
All right. So now that's
So
5
right
felonies.
Now it's a gross misdemeanor. Now it's a felony.
Now it's a felony. Oh, dear.
Oh, no. Oh, look, another misdemeanor.
Oh, my.
All right, so what was happening there is these 2 gentlemen, or 3 gentlemen, I should say, is they were passing that rifle back and forth between each other. So apparently what happens is when the owner of the rifle passes it to somebody else and does not conduct a background check on that person first, it's a gross misdemeanor. However, when that person hands that rifle back to the original owner without conducting a background check, now it's a felony. And in fact, both parties are felons at that point. Now, I would like to make it very clear that of the 3 gentlemen that were there breaking the law, becoming felons at that moment, not a single one of them was arrested. In fact, nobody was arrested at the whole event. There were police officers not far from where we were. I know for a fact that at least one of those police officers witnessed the event. And no arrests were made. So what does this tell you? It tells you that they know they cannot enforce this law. It tells you that they will probably use this as one of those laws that are used to help them create a plea bargain situation. Crime was committed and there was a firearm transfer in the process of the crime, so they'll throw this crime at them as well and hope that they can sufficiently scare the defendant enough to go ahead and plea down to a lesser charge rather than take it to court, because that saves the court a lot of time and money, doesn't it? So, yes, I am talking to you. Loki's sitting over there on his side of the studio. He's kind of falling asleep. Oh, God, Drew's talking again.
Well, I was back here manning the computers, making sure that the relevant information happened. So I don't know exactly, other than what I saw in your videos, actually happened. So this is all you, bud. I just get to sit back, relax, drink my Pepsi and everything else, and play sound clips every once in a while. But from the sounds of it, he did come back safe and sound, and we didn't have to send you bail money or anything else like that.
Yeah, that made Chuck very happy when he found out that he didn't have to come up with any bail money for me. So, and speaking of which, Chuck is listening to us. Hello, Chuck. How you doing tonight? And thanks for having the bail money available anyway, though, bro. Appreciate it. So just to let you know, I just got a text from Brandy. There's evidently a couple of accidents on the interstate, so it's going to be a little bit longer before she gets here.
That's okay.
So we'll try to slow it down a little bit here and, just kind of take our time with this, and hopefully Chuck doesn't get too mad at us.
Well, you were actually up there for several hours, so you should have a lot to talk about. And you being the egotistical Buddhist, I mean, you hardly ever.
Well, what is the guy's name? Vanderbo, who started the Three Percenters. I think his name is Vanderbo. He was one of the people there who was giving one of the speeches, and here's one of the things that he said that I think everybody needs to hear. Everybody who listens to my show, who listens to We Resistors Radio Network, or any other resistance network or show that's out there, needs to hear what he had to say here.
Welcome to the resistance behind enemy lines.
That's right. Welcome to the resistance behind enemy lines. Now, I thought that pretty much said it all right there. I really did, because that it sums up very nicely exactly the state of the country right now. The Patriots are in a defensive battle at this point. Now, nobody's shooting, okay, but that doesn't mean there's not a war going on. Okay, right now it's a war of words, and it's a war of legal battles, okay? Hopefully it never devolves into a war of shooting. But, excuse me, but war it is. And anybody who doubts otherwise is not paying attention. They just don't understand what's going on.
Well, that's why We Resistors Radio Network is here. We're here to help educate you, help wake you up to what's actually going on, so that you can actually see the sparks and everything of the battles that are going on and how they're trying to take away the inalienable rights that we have. These are rights that were given to us that are never supposed to be taken away. They are not for the little green men that are in UFOs. That's not the aliens we're talking about.
Or the inaliens.
That's right.
They're the cool aliens. They're the inaliens, right?
Uh-huh.
But here's another quote that Mr. Vanderbilt gave, and I felt that I needed to play this clip, even though it really doesn't have a lot to do with where I'm going to go with the show tonight. But just because I really have a problem with the Three Percenters all the way around. They claim to be patriots, they claim to stand for the Constitution, and they claim to uphold certain values. And yet all the time they're out there saying it, well, if you're not a white Anglo-Saxon Protestant or whatever the flavor of the week is for them, then you're not a three-percenter. Prime example, if you're a Muslim, you're not a three-percenter. Well, I happen to know several Muslims that are three-percenters. Oh, well, you're not a Christian, you're not a three-percenter. Well, so what?
I have a clip that I use on my show every once in a while that really sums up what the Three Percenters do, and the only thing that the Three Percenters really do. Can I play it?
Go ahead. Go for it. Okay, this is dead air, dude. We're not. Chuck says no dead air.
Oh, bitch!
That's a good clip for them. All right. So, anyway, so for you 3%ers out there, I want you to listen to Mr. Vanderbo's words himself, the founder of your movement, the guy who defines what 3%ers are. Here's what he has to say.
In home politics, I'm a Christian libertarian. I believe in God, free men, free markets, the rule of law under the Founders' Republic, and that the Constitution extends to everyone regardless of race, creed, color, or religion. I also believe that the Second Amendment is the guarantor of liberty in this country, the right to keep and bear arms, which is not created by the Constitution, but merely codified by it.
So take that, you bigoted bastards. Okay? Now, I'm not referring to the 3%ers that follow what Mr. Vanderbo has to say. I'm referring to the rest of you bastards out there who are just bigoted. I can't think of a worse word than bigoted for their behavior.
Idiots?
Well, bigoted, idiot, I guess that's kind of synonymous when you think about it. I don't know. Each person, I guess, has their own opinions on that. So, but one of the things that I noticed while I was up there, and I'm going to get a little poetic here, okay?
This isn't another roses are red, violets are blue.
No, this is more about there once was a man for... Oh, no. No. I have been to most of the states in our republic, okay, most of them. And of those states, I've seen most of those Capitol buildings, the Capitol buildings in those states. Now, the Capitol building in Olympia, Washington, is architecturally one of the most spectacular and beautiful Capitol buildings of all of them in our country. Okay, it is just absolutely beautiful. I just love looking at it. I really do. I could stand there all day long just looking at the Capitol building from the outside. Okay, I'm not even going to go into the grandeur of the inside.
Yeah, but this is also the guy that'll sit there and watch his dog chase his tail for 10 minutes and then just realize that dog's being an idiot. Oh, so am I, because I just wasted 10 minutes of my life watching the dog.
Yeah, well, just remember, we sat here for 3 hours yesterday or a few days ago staring at each other trying to come up with a fundraising idea. So, so anyway. But I thought that with the fog and the mist and everything that was shrouding the Capitol building that day, it seemed to me that it was just a perfect metaphor. And I actually wrote down what I felt about that. If I can get my computer to actually work, I'm going to read to you what I wrote down, if I can find it now.
It's not the computer, it's the operator.
I know. But anyway, I wrote down, shrouded in the mist, in the fog and the mist, it seemed to be the perfect metaphor of the fading of liberty brought about by the encroaching evils paid for by the enemies of freedom. Okay, so that's the maximum amount of poetic that I can get.
Okay, you've got to slow that down and re-say that, because I'm not sure I understood what you were actually getting across.
Okay, shrouded, that means covered by. Okay, fog and mist, that's where the clouds come down to the earth and give it a hug. Okay, it seemed that it was the perfect metaphor of the fading liberty, because when you look at the building through the fog, it looks faded, right? Okay, the fading of liberty brought about by the encroaching evils paid for by the enemies of freedom.
Okay, so corporations.
Or anybody, Bloomberg. I mean, or anybody at all.
Bloomberg's paid off by the corporations.
Bloomberg owns the corporations. This guy is like he's got what, $50 trillion or something like that. And yes, I am prone to exaggeration. I know.
Yes.
So, but you know what was really great about it, though, that even though it was cold, I mean, it was bitterly cold, and it was foggy and misty, and it was, the fog was so thick that it actually dampened the sounds coming out of the speakers, and they had some pretty high performance speakers out there. Or what is it? High fidelity speakers? Is that the correct word? Okay. You're the sound guy. You would know these things.
Yes, I would.
Okay. But you know what? It could not dampen at all the fiery enthusiasm of the Patriots. They would not allow even the cold and the mist to dampen their enthusiasm. They were very spirited people. And in spite of all of that, in all of they still behaved.
Right. So how do we go about getting more people actually involved without there having to be a tragedy to go along with it?
Let's face it, you're not gonna. Until people start losing their lives, nobody's going to wake up.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say that because obviously you and I, we've woke up. And there was a time when we weren't.
Yeah,
so people are waking up. It's just a very slow process. And in the end, quite likely, we'll lose because the process takes so long. But if we can hold out long enough, eventually we will wake up enough people that we will be able to make progress and we will be able to make headway. Right now, we're just fighting a defensive battle, and we're barely holding ground as it stands, because the enemies of freedom have more money than we do. They have more influence than we do. Okay? And until that changes, that's going to be our state of existence. We're going to continue fighting a defensive battle. But as the people begin to wake up, some of those people are eventually going to be some of these billionaires. And they're going to start fighting the battle on our side. And they're going to start helping us gain ground. And then we'll go on the offense. And then we'll start gaining ground. And we'll start seeing our liberties being returned to us. Well, let me rephrase that. They're going to see that we're going to take our liberties back. That's the more correct way to put it, I think. So... But anyway, this event has been billed as the largest event of its kind in American history in terms of civil disobedience, in which so many people came together to willingly and deliberately disobey a law for the purpose of nullifying the effectiveness of that law or the enforceability of that law. Now, I don't know if that's true, but... because I seem to think that back before you and I were born, back in the 50s and 60s when Dr. King was doing his thing, I seem to remember that there were many more thousands of people involved in his participating in his civil disobedience causes. So I would question whether or not this was actually the largest event of its kind. I don't know. We'll let history make the judgment on that one. What do you say?
That works for me.
Okay. Boy, you're being very easy tonight. What's going on? Are you feeling well? You got a fever?
I feel with my hands, so I'm doing okay.
So anyway, the event was called the I Will Not Comply event. And that's exactly what happened. They did not comply.
Oh, hold on. We have somebody that wants to chime in here, and I actually know who this is.
Okay.
So I'm actually going to bring him live on the line, and we're going to talk to this.
Hi, Chuck.
This is my favorite redneck.
Never mind. You were just kind of pounding on the fake book 3%ers there, and I thought I would chime in on that one because that's one of my favorite things. But you guys are doing good. You moved on since then, so never mind.
Well, we can stomp on the 3%ers a little bit more. That's not a problem.
Yeah, you know what? I am, if nothing, I am a fair host, and I always like to give my listeners and my callers an opportunity to voice their thoughts and their opinions, as long as it's not about Israel.
Well, we will get there someday with you. I just
go ahead and give him a. Go ahead and give him hell.
Well, 3%ers doesn't have any meaning. It has no meaning. these people on Facebook, and they've got their little pages that they're always setting up. And look, I'm a hero. I'm a resistor because I've got a fake book page, that's got 3%er on it. And then you look at what they're doing. Really, they're still big on voting. They still believe the Republican Party. Even today, after this last election and this new Omnibus bill, they still act like, it's better than the Democrats. Yeah, that's your 3%ers. Hate the Muslims, hate anything but, and what did that guy say, who was the founder of it? Had to throw in the Christian part, didn't he? But then he's going to say, but it's for everybody. But we're Christians and we're this, we're that. But then
there's nothing wrong with people being a Christian. Yeah, if that's where they believe their heart needs to be, then there's no problem with that.
But when the founder of something, says, maybe we'll have to replay that so I make sure I heard it right. It's one thing to say I'm a Christian, but you can have any religion you like. But if he said the word we, was it we or I?
No, he said I.
Oh, okay.
He did not say we.
And that's okay. But playing into the bigotry, and you pointed it out very well, did a good job on it. So I just wanted to chime in on that. In case anybody listens to the archives, it's not hard to call out 3%ers. Show me your receipts, is what I say to them. Show me your Blog Talk Radio. Show me your blog post. Show me where you've done something other than just regurgitate garbage from Ted Cruz, and the rest of the mainline Republican Party. And Ted Cruz is mainline Republican Party.
And I want to touch on something that you said there real quick. You had mentioned that they're very much in line with in lockstep, basically, with the Republican Party, and they're like, we're better than the Democrats, and I liken it to this. You've got one person who's going to shoot you in the head with a .38 caliber pistol. You got another guy who's going to shoot you in the head with a .40 caliber pistol. Okay. So, maybe getting shot in the head with a .38 caliber pistol is a little bit better than being shot in the head with a .40 caliber pistol because the hole's going to be a bit smaller. But what's going to be the end result either way?
Absolutely. There's one party, and we are not invited.
Precisely.
And I still say that the 3%ers tagline is,
"Oh, bitch, bitch, bitch."
I believe I said that on the chat, and that's absolutely right. Guys, you're doing a good job. I'm sitting here listening and reading at the same time, waiting for your guest to come on. Listening to you guys chat. I mean, you're a good show as usual, always.
And hopefully she will be with us soon. Unfortunately, there was an accident on the freeway that she has to drive on to get to our studio. So it's going to be a little bit longer.
Send her a text and say she can just call in on her cell phone. And she can
she's driving, Chuck.
While she's on.
Yeah, she's driving, Chuck. We don't encourage that.
Okay, well we got to get her a Bluetooth then. So. Right.
Yeah, there is that. I that's something I'll put on. I'll give her for Christmas or something.
Okay. I was just listening, and good show. Continue to march. I'm going to mute myself out. Okay.
All right. Thanks. All right. We'll talk with you later, Chuck. I'm going to leave your mic live so you can just chime in whenever you want. Okay.
Okay. I'm going to mute out.
Okay. Now, I asked a lot of different people there while we were there. I asked them, why are you here? And people gave all kinds of answers. I'm here to support the Second Amendment. I'm here because the government sucks. I'm here because of this. I'm here because of that. I'm here because of the other. One person gave me the best answer of all of them.
Because they lived in Olympia, Washington.
Nobody said that actually. In fact, I don't know how many of those people actually live there. I met people from Texas there. I met people from Oregon there. I met people from different parts of Washington there. And one person was all the way from she was Missouri, I think she said Missouri. But anyway, so there were people from all over the country there.
Well, and I think the reason that you're seeing that is because if Washington State was able to pass such a bogus initiative into law, the other states would have picked it up and ran with it. So having outside influences there, in this case, was a positive thing, unlike the bogus and benign Ferguson case, where most of the people that were actually doing the looting and rioting didn't even live.
Yeah, they were from, well, all over.
All over.
Yeah, they send in agents provocateurs from all over the country to those kind of events to create problems and stir up trouble deliberately.
Yes. Especially the one undercover police officer that was found out. So what did he do? He actually pulled his gun during one of the riots.
I think he kind of had to, because once it was found out that he was a police officer. At that point, his life actually probably was in danger. So I really can't say that I blame him for pulling out the gun, because that's what the gun's for.
Exactly. But you were going to tell us what this one person had to say.
Yes, this one person, she gave probably what I think is the best answer of all the other answers. I didn't even upload any of the sound bites of any of the other answers to that question because I thought hers was the best answer. So here's what she had to say.
I've been a victim in my life several times of violence. I'm not going to be a victim anymore, you know.
I have been a victim many times in my life of violence, and I am not going to be a victim anymore. Number one answer. Ding, 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 ding. Or what's that show, Family Feud? Number one answer.
Right.
Right there, as far as I'm concerned.
You know, and I know we're playing a lot of these sound bites and everything else. These sound bites are actually edited out of the videos that Drew took when he was up at the protest. Being a journalist and having people question him as to why he was wearing the funny jacket. But those videos can actually be found on his Facebook page. You can find him on Facebook under the name of Drew Forseti. That's DRUFORSETI.
Thank you. That was a very nice plug. You did well. It's almost like you've been in radio before.
You know, there is that.
But anyway, I want to talk about this here for just a few minutes before we go into our first break.
Well, I am the sound engineer, so you better make it quick.
But I think that her answer was the best for a very good reason. We have become a nation where it has become popular to be a victim. It seems to be that the more of a victim you can claim to be, the better you are, or the more popular you are. Or I'm not really clear on how to describe that, because you kind of have to reverse logic on that, and I have difficulty with that. You know, I'm not a woman after all. But
that's debatable. But
Barbie's going to get me.
You know, it goes to the fact that we have a lot of people out there that want to play the victim of, you know, I'm not getting enough from the government. I'm not getting equal rights. I'm not getting this. I'm not getting that. The thing is you have to be very careful in doing that, because it goes back to the true meaning and everything else of the old stories in nursery rhymes of always crying wolf. If you always cry wolf or always cry victim, sooner or later, nobody's going to be paying attention to you.
Except Congress.
They're not even paying attention to anybody right now. I saw a post, and I thought it was, I can't remember if it was gun control or whatever, but they in the House passed it by 97% or whatever, even though us in the public, in society, voted and told them by a resounding 67%, you are not to pass this law or whatever they were trying to pass. So they're not listening to us.
No, you're absolutely right, and they haven't been for a long time. It has been years, decades.
Yeah, but I still hold true. If we are always out there screaming, "I'm a victim, I need this, I need that," sooner or later, nobody's going to listen. And then once something drastic does happen to you,
I want my soapbox back.
Nobody is going to be listening. You can't have it. I'm not done painting the rainbow on it.
But here's what this woman represents, though. She represents the winds of change. Okay? People are getting tired of being a victim. People are getting tired of being bullied. They're getting tired of being pushed around. They're getting tired of being told when to wake up in the morning, when to take a crap, when to come home from work, how much money to spend and where to spend it, and you know how many times you can cross the street in a given day, and any number of some of these ridiculous laws that are being passed, and the enforcement class is being used to beat everybody up or kill them or tase them to death or whatever, to create an atmosphere of fear, an environment of fear, a culture of fear in our country. And this woman is standing up and she's saying, I am not going to be a victim anymore. And that's why she had that gun, that pistol holstered at her hip. I have a feeling she had more, but she only showed me that one. Excuse me. So I think with that, I think this would be a good time to take a quick break. And I think we should play – what do you think? Think we should play some Scorpions tonight? In honor of that woman, I think we'll play some Scorpions. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the We Resistors Radio Network, since Loki's not doing his job. You are listening to the Druth About, and I am your host, Drew Forseti, with my almost useless co-host tonight, Loki King.
No, I'm just getting you in practice for when you're on my show on Sunday.
Oh, is that how that goes? All right. So we'll be back in, let's see, this song is 8 minutes long. All right, so we'll be back in about 10 minutes. Enjoy your break, everybody. Freshen up your drink and go use the restroom, whatever it is you're going to do.
Follow the moon
down to Gonky Park, listening to the wind of change. Another summer night, soldiers passing by, listening to the wind of change. The world is closing in, and did you ever think that we could be so close, like brothers? The future's in the air, feel it everywhere, and blowing with the wind of change.
An American Muslim and an Irish Catholic go head-to-head on A Muslim and a Catholic Wake Up in Murica, Tuesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, here on the We Resistors Radio Network. Fighting tyranny and uncovering the truth 7 nights a week on the We Resistors Radio Network. Tune in and have a voice. Monday night kicks off our week with special edition programs featuring guests speaking on a variety of topics. Tuesday nights, find out if a Muslim and a Catholic can agree upon anything when Issa Hajj and Common Cow bring you A Muslim and a Catholic Wake Up in Murica. Go Beyond the Veil Wednesday nights with Josh Earwood and Don Bates. The egotistical Buddhist Drew Forseti takes to the air Thursday nights on The Druth About. Friday nights, Fredericksburg comes alive with Stephen Thomas O'Brien and Frankie Nieto on FBG Live. Step into the ring Saturday nights on The Smith Fix to debate and fight with the guy who woke us up to the battle, the redneck himself, Chuck Smith Fix Smith. Everyone's favorite fag, Loki King, brings up the rear each Sunday night, inviting America into his closet as he airs out the nation's dirty laundry. So be sure to join us live each weeknight right here on the We Resistors Radio Network.
All right, and we're back. This is the We Resistors Radio Network. You're listening to The Druth About. I am your host, Drew Forseti, and with me, as always, is my good buddy, Loki King. And guess who else we have with us in the studio tonight?
Somebody that's a lot more better looking than you.
By far. We have Brandy with us. Brandy is the woman who was with me up in Olympia last weekend. So, Brandy, say hi to everybody.
Hello. How are you all tonight? What a day
Again with
we've
the
had.
crickets. You know, every time we ask people how they are, we just get crickets.
I know.
Man. It's terrible. It's like we're a radio show or something.
Well, you would think that they would practice common courtesy, but it's all good. We're okay with that.
Yeah, we are. We're okay with that. Excuse me. So, Brandy, I'm sorry that it took you so long to get down here tonight. I understand you had to go through some pretty heavy traffic there. So.
Yeah, we all like to do, navigate big city traffic at rush hour.
Yeah, always a wonderful experience to have.
Already marked my calendar for the next time.
The second Tuesday of never?
Exactly.
So, sorry, I was taking a swig of my Dr. Pepper there. Yes, I know, Loki. That's a free plug. So, Brandy, we've been discussing the I'm sorry, what? You lost us.
There you are.
Am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Don't know what happened there. I didn't touch anything this time, I swear.
Yeah, it's just because you gave the free plug to Dr. Pepper.
And they probably didn't like that.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't like guns. They're scary. Oh, my God.
Well, it is that carbonated prune juice.
I know. And Brandy doesn't like me drinking it either, so...
It actually is better to have a little bit of sugar in moderation than drinking diet anything.
Well, yeah, because it's got that nasty chemical. What is that called?
Aspartame.
Aspartame, yeah, nasty stuff. That stuff will kill you quickly.
Kills brain cells.
Well, that explains a lot about me. No, when I was a teenager, I actually had a thing for Diet Coke. I really liked Diet Coke. When they switched over from being Tab and they changed it to Diet Coke, I used to drink Diet Coke by the liter.
And for those actually listening tonight, we are actually talking about the protest that happened up in Olympia, Washington, over the initiative of I594, which is an initiative that they tried to pass that said...
No, they did pass.
Well, the other reports that I am seeing is it is going down in a blaze of glory. It's not going to go any farther.
No, they did it right. They absolutely did it right.
Yeah.
It was successful. And that, the police just basically stood around and watched, and the prosecutors have already come out and said we're not going to be enforcing this. So
Yeah, well, they can't.
it's unenforceable, which means it's constitutional.
Yeah, exactly.
It will be selectively enforced, which infringes upon our constitutional right.
And so if you happen to be a person who is caught up in this law somehow and you become a defendant and they're charging you under this law, feel free to give us a call, and we will be more than happy to, or send me an email, rather, and we'll be more than happy to provide you with any video evidence we have of the police noticing people breaking the law and not enforcing it. So, and that will only strengthen your selective enforcement argument in front of the judge. And he would have really, or she would have no choice but to throw it out at that point.
Absolutely.
If it ever goes that far. So, now one of the things that I noticed while we were there is there were a lot of children.
Oh, many families, yeah.
Lots of them.
Yeah.
And, there was the children that they had sitting on the ground behind, with a flag behind them.
Yeah, they were taking a family photo.
Yeah.
Mom and dad holding the guns, and the children sitting in front with the United States flag behind them, being held up by some friends. And I just thought, wow, that is beautiful right there.
That was absolutely beautiful.
Awesome. Yeah.
And then there was that couple that had that little, couldn't have been more than a year and a half, 2 years old maybe.
Maybe 18 months.
Yeah, and so we were asking the mom, well, aren't you scared because there's all these big scary guns here? And she got snippy with me.
Well, did you cover the vest? Did you tell people what you made us wear?
Well, no. Loki actually cut me off when I started telling people about it.
That's part of the story.
Yeah. Unfortunately, because of what was on the vest, people thought I was actually referring to the protesters there with the words "Don't shoot" on the back of it, and they didn't realize that it was actually my message to the police not to shoot me as a journalist. So. But yeah, that woman, she actually got kind of snippy. She was like, "Let's go. We can get out of here."
She was done.
And I mean, because I don't know. I thought the sarcasm was kind of dripping from my voice when I was asking the questions. So but apparently she didn't notice that, or I just didn't come across as well as I thought I did. So
it happens, and more than one person asked me. They'd come up to me and go, "Really, really, really?" And I'd say, dude, I'm on your side. I'm a patriot just like you are. This is just a comment to the other side. Of course, I think Drew is prepared to hurl me in front of the bullets anyway. So.
Well, better you than me, but
exactly.
Well, he is an ex-Navy person, and maybe so used to having other people cover for them.
Well, that's.
But
we'll go into that another time. But I want to talk about that young teenage boy that we saw there.
Yeah, he was quite amazing. Very educated.
Yes, he schooled us, didn't he?
He did. He did. He knew what he was talking about, and we approached it from a place of ignorance. So we allowed him to carry the ball and run with it, and he did so well.
He did.
He did so well.
I have the sound bite
of
what he was talking about. So as soon as I can find it here, we'll play that. Boy schools Drew. There it is. So this is a conversation we had with a 14-year-old boy on gun rights.
So you're doing competition shooting now?
Yeah.
You've just started?
Yeah, I started last week every Tuesday.
Good.
Yeah.
So Dad taught you well then, huh?
I've gone shooting with him and my mom's stepdad.
Uh-huh.
So we would go once every month or two out shooting, and I've shot anywhere from a .22 pistol to 9mm rifle and stuff like that. So shot in the range of guns.
All right. And did you fire one of those big, scary assault rifles? That's a trick question.
No.
Don't answer that. That was a trick question. Okay, so you had something to say about assault rifles. Assault knives, assault broomsticks.
People use the term assault. Assault is an action word. I've never seen a car go on its own and cause an accident. I've never seen a butter knife get up and go stab somebody. And I've never seen a gun hop out of a drawer and go fire on its own. It always takes a person, and that person is an action towards it. So you can't blame guns for a person's action. You gotta hold the person accountable, not the gun.
Going along with that, how I think of it, if you were to take a gun and just set it on your porch and nobody or nothing touched it, nobody would die. You could leave it there, like, forever, and it couldn't do anything.
Yeah, but you're trying to fool me, aren't you? Because you're not pointing that gun at anybody, are you?
No, as long as nobody or nothing messes with it, nobody can get hurt.
But what if you put the gun down and you pointed it, say, at your neighbor across the street? Don't you think then it would, you don't think so?
There needs to be something applying force to the trigger for it to fire.
Lesson in physics. How old are you again?
14.
14? Lesson in physics from
Got
a
it.
14-year-old. There
Got
we go.
it.
We got it.
I never made it that far. You're doing good.
Awesome. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. Thank you, young man. Appreciate it. And good luck.
Thank you very much.
Competition shooting.
Brilliant young man.
Just absolutely awesome, and it's cool that a 14-year-old child can get it.
Yeah.
You know, here we have adults across this country who don't get it, and here's this 14-year-old kid schooling us on the physics of firearms. You know, you have to apply force to the trigger in order to make that gun work. If you don't do it, it ain't going to work.
He was so articulate about the entire thing that it's uncommon for, first of all, for 14-year-olds to talk to adults.
Yeah.
In our culture today, and then to have him be so well spoken and know so much about what he was talking about. His parents did a very good job with him.
They did a very good job, not just teaching him to articulate as well as he did, but also in teaching him firearm use. I mean, he's competition shooting now. I mean, that's better than I'll ever be.
And the Bill of Rights.
Yeah, and the Bill of Rights, exactly. And let's say and you notice he gave credit to not just dad, but also to mom and stepdad too. You know, he wanted to make sure everybody got in there. You know, I'm being raised by a village.
Yeah.
You know, and they're doing it the right way. They're not doing it the Clinton-esque way.
Yeah.
We're doing it the way it's supposed to be done.
But that also indicates that there is more than one family out there that has a gun. And I'll still hold to the fact of the sign that I saw on the school the one time that said 2/3 of our teachers actually are carrying. It's up to you to figure out which 2/3 it is.
Yeah. That and let's face it, if every school posted a sign like that, how many school shootings do you think we would witness?
A lot less.
A whole lot less, probably zero. That would be my guess, because a gunman goes up and, oh, geez, well, they might shoot back at me. You know, I don't want to do that. I'm looking for victims. I'm not looking for people who can fight back, you know. You know, the typical bully mentality.
Okay, so evidently either you, I, or Brandy has struck a chord with one of our listeners, so I want to bring him live on the air. I believe when I questioned his name, he said his name was Ellery. I could be wrong, so let's go ahead and take his mic live.
All right, I will take care of that. All right, Ellery, you are live. What can we do for you today?
Well, I just want to put out, I mean, if more parents would take the time to teach their kids those things like this 14-year-old, and they'd get a lot more respect for what we're talking about if they'd actually teach them the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. Our society would go up that much more in levels.
You're absolutely right. And that's one of the issues that I'm going to be bringing up on a future episode is how the educational system is failing us by not teaching children about the Constitution, about the Bill of Rights, about the Declaration of Independence. Now, I remember when I was in high school, we had like 2 days a year for the study of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. 2 whole days out of the whole year. The rest of the time we were talking about, you know, current events or, you know, what have you.
Yeah, but when you were in school, the ink on the Bill of Rights was still wet.
Well, that may be, but it was still just as valid then as it is today. So,
I'm older, and I had to memorize the Bill of Rights.
Oh,
man,
yes.
Yeah.
So, but Ellery, you make a good point, and another thing that that I'd like to point out is that they taught the kid about the guns at an early age. I believe he said he was about 6 when they started teaching him. Now,
6, 7
in my
years
opinion,
old.
I'm sorry.
It was 6, 7. Actually, that's my kid right there, and I was the father right there with him.
Well, thank you for listening to the show tonight. I was hoping you would show up. So he was 7 when you started teaching him.
About 6, 7 years old. Guns have been in his mom's family and my family our whole lives.
Well, excellent. You did an awesome job, sir. I want you to know that. All 3 of us here in the studio, we all believe you did an excellent job, or are doing an excellent job raising this fine young gentleman.
Ellery, can I ask a question, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Does your son participate with other young men, kind of spreading this message? Does he belong to clubs that get involved in schools and get involved in the community in a way that these children can be taught? You know, not all parents are teachers, and not all parents have the resources to teach. So
True.
My question to you is, how are you carrying that message a little bit further than just your son?
Honestly, I spread it, as you guys probably saw in my vest. I spread it every day I wear that vest. It's all over it. But with my youngest kid right there, I'm not exactly sure how far he's going with it. And I know he speaks his mind. So if somebody's going to sit there and try and tell him, this is bad or that's good, that's the way you should do it, he speaks his mind and he stands up for himself. And hopefully that right there rubs off on other people out there where, they'll start doing the same thing instead of bowing down.
Sure. Does he experience conflict from other kids his age in regards to this issue?
To my knowledge, he's with his mom more than I am, so it's hard for me to answer that. But with talking to him, he doesn't have a lot of problems out there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Now, I have a question for you, really quick. We do have another caller who wants to chime in, so we will get to you in just a minute, caller. But I do have a question. Now, you said you started teaching your son at an early age, like 6 or 7 years of age. Now, does your child have an issue with playing with his guns irresponsibly?
No, and I got another son, too, about 17. Neither of them will mess around with the guns unless they're told they're allowed to, unless we're out there actually shooting, then they can handle them, or unless they're unloaded and we're supervising it. But no, they do not mess with guns one bit. They got very much respect for it.
And that is exactly the point that I want to make with your comment and my question. When you teach children about guns and gun safety and gun usage at an early age, it takes the mystery out of the gun. And they are no longer interested in showing it off to their friends, excuse me, especially if you make them clean the gun. Because let's face it, that is a chore. It takes a long time to properly clean a gun. And if you tell them every time you touch that gun, you have to clean it, it's going to take away the mystery. It's going to take away the desire to play with it as a toy rather than use it as the tool it's intended to be.
Well, and I'll still hold to the fact that if you teach the children about these firearms and you don't try to hide them, they're not going to bother them. If you start trying to hide them, then you encourage intrigue and mystery and everything else, and they're going to go figure it out. But we do have another caller in queue, and if I recognize the number correctly, I actually know who this is. This is another lady, very good friend of ours that I would not mess with. Actually, her husband has said I have one or two guns. My wife has a whole bunch more, and I don't know where they're at. She belongs to our sister network and our partner. She runs and operates the Patriots Information Hotline. So with that, let's go ahead and bring Barbie on the line.
Barbie, you are live. How are you tonight? Barbie.
Hello?
It's not Barbie.
That's not Barbie.
You got the wrong. Oh, dear.
I did. Sorry about that.
All right, if you'll give us a first name, no last name, please.
Actually, I can give you both. This is Gavin Syme, and I'm calling in about the rally.
Oh, Gavin.
I was asked to call in tonight.
Yes, hi. Well, I'm glad you were able to make it to the show.
Yeah, I sent you an email, said I was calling in, but there was no way to notify apparently who I was when I called in. So. Right. No, that's no problem. So thank you very much for calling in. We do. This is Druth Forseti, yes, and my co-host Loki is with us as well as Brandy Medina. So we're all here, and so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to give you just as much time as you want right now to give us your general impressions of the event and your thoughts and feelings on it. Okay. Right. And now are people clear on where we're coming from, what the rally was, and what I594 is? Should I give a preface on that, or have you already been talking about it? No, we've already been talking about it. Everybody's pretty much got a good idea of what it was about. Excellent. Okay. Everything went phenomenal on 12/13. I mean, 12/13/14 was the shot heard around the world without a single shot fired. And it's being talked about all over the country, all over the world, because the people stood up and they said, no more. And at this point, I would say tyrants are reeling, and most politicians don't even know what to say, so they're just sitting in slack-jawed silence and pretending nothing happened. The bottom line is we had anywhere from 1,500 on the conservative up to 3,000 people there throughout the day. And we had speakers, we had people coming from all over the country to stand in Olympia on the Capitol lawn out there. We had people openly and defiantly violating I-594, not only in the transfer of arms, which it makes a felony, but also buying and selling openly, all the way up to some of us even burning our concealed weapons permits at the end of the rally. It was a phenomenal day, and people of all walks stood, and by God's grace, it was calm, it was peaceful, and effectively, not only on principle but on a legal sense, we have nullified I-594 with this stand. That's not to suggest that there's not more work to do. It's not to suggest that we shouldn't work with our legislators and get it taken off the books. But in a legal sense, I mean, at this point, we already have at least one sheriff and prosecutor coming out saying they won't prosecute people for what happened here, for this simple violation of 594. We have a massive precedent now that is going to make it extremely hard for any sort of prosecution to be successful. Now, Gavin, if I could just interrupt you here real quick, could you explain that particular aspect of your comment to us, please? Exactly why do you believe that it's going to make it more difficult to prosecute? Well, the way it works, first of all, let's go back to nullification, because nullification is something over the past few years that's been talked about a lot. You know, organizations like the 10th Amendment Center, and a lot of us are saying, hey, we need to nullify. This here on the 13th was the strongest example of nullification that we have seen yet, because we had a group of armed patriots standing to nullify. And the nullification means to render impotent, void, or powerless. Now, according to the framers and according to history, law that violates the Constitution is void. So we asserted that from the beginning. If you can't make a piece of law that violates the supreme law, and that's what 594 was. So legally it was void from the moment it was penned. What happened then is nullification is the people gathering and rendering that law impotent and powerless by saying, we're not going to follow this law. We are going to openly defy it, and we did. And so what happened there is you have a situation where all these people were openly defying this law in front of law enforcement. There was WSP, Washington State Patrol, all over the campus here, and they got along with us really well. They chose to completely not enforce this law, and now you have all these people saying, we defy this law, we won't follow it. we're nullifying and rendering void. Then what happens is no prosecution of those people. And I've actually even spoken to an attorney about this. What happens is when the people defy that and nullify that, and there's no prosecution upon all those people, if then, let's say, they come to me or they come to you or they come to some random person 2 months from now and they arrest him or her for violation of this law and it goes to court, what happens is they're going to have a very hard time having any sort of a successful prosecution because it brings into it what is called selective enforcement. So essentially you have, hey, here's 1,000 people. All these people violated it. What are you prosecuting this person for? You didn't prosecute them. So what we've done is we've actually broken down the chain. We've not only proved that the people will stand up and they won't violate this, and the violations are continuing, and that's key too. We're continuing the nullification. There's another rally coming up next week in Spokane. It's not a rally organized by me specifically, but it's along the same intent of this original message of no, let's start this movement and let's not obey this lawless legislation because it's really not law. It's just a piece of paper. We trampled it in violating it, and now we've essentially rendered it impotent because there's really no practical way for them to prosecute. This isn't to say that they couldn't try. I mean, essentially they can arrest us for whatever they want in reality. I mean, we see this all over America now. If they want to find something to arrest you and prosecute you for, they will probably find something. But in terms of 594, it's really, at this point, all but dead, I would say, and we'll see what happens going forward, but there's a movement now. There's people constantly violating this at this point. How are they going to enforce that? And the answer is it's not likely that they can. It's not likely they can prosecute it. And at that point, where do we go? We go to our legislatures. We go to and look to the judges. In a sense, the people have empowered them now. We've made the law ineffective and a mockery and actually made it easier for our legislators to come together and say, this isn't going to work. Let's get rid of it.
Now, Gavin, let me ask you, excuse me, a question here. This is, in essence, a case where the majority of the people voted a law into existence which actually takes away a person's inalienable rights, or in the case of this law, it takes away a piece of a person's inalienable right. Now, this is obviously not something that is supposed to be allowed to happen. So could you explain to us your theory on how it is that something like this actually came to be? How is it that we got to a place where we can, where the people think it's okay to vote away an inalienable right?
Well, if you want to go to the root, I think, honestly, I mean, taking it all the way back, it goes to the family. It goes to the way our children are being raised in not understanding liberty and not understanding principle and the foundations of our country, and that liberty is equal, that the law and the Constitution are supreme, and that foundation. In a practical sense, in relation to this law, what happened is, obviously, Washington, because of the West Side and the areas where the majority of the people are, King County, is not very well informed on that. They tend to lead toward the liberal, let's take away all the gun side. And then what happened is you had millions and millions and millions of dollars of out-of-state funding coming in from people like Bloomberg and things like that, who promoted this law, this legislation rather, as a positive thing. Oh, it's just for background checks. And by the way, background checks are also totally unconstitutional, but they promoted it as it's not a big deal. It's just a background check law. And so the bottom line in this case, I think, is that a lot of the people that voted for it didn't even really know the ramifications, and that now, under this law, you couldn't even hand your gun to a friend to go hunting, which is why we acted immediately. And I think this is an important principle, and we're going to be talking about this more going forward. I'm going to be writing about this and talking about, okay, how can we replicate this in different areas, because it went so well in the process that we used by jumping on this right away and saying, no, we're not going to wait till someone gets prosecuted. We're not going to wait for the courts or the legislators. We, the people, are going to stand now. And we are going to say, absolutely not. We're not going to tolerate this because the collective majority does not have the right to vote away the rights of another.
That's a very excellent point. And excuse me, I'm actually going to give you an opportunity here to take this one step further and carry it on like you suggested by inviting you to come down and support Oregon when we conduct our rally on February 9th.
Yeah, can you fill me in a little bit? Do we have the same law yet? Because I know the people that pushed I-594 through are already targeting other states. Do you actually have a similar law that's going on there, or where do you stand on that, if you can fill me in a little?
We do not have the law yet. However,
okay.
Unfortunately, in this last election, the state house was taken over by the Democrats. And they, the day after Election Day, they said, we're coming after your guns. The governor is a Democrat. He said it. Ginny Burdick, who is the Senate president in the Oregon Senate, said that she's coming after him. But she's been saying that for years now. So they've made it very clear that this is something that they are interested in pursuing and pushing through. And so on February 9th, we're going to hold a rally to tell them, no, you're not.
Exactly.
What I heard,
no, that's phenomenal.
What I heard, Gavin, is that they have every intention of getting something on the books right after session opens in February, by the end of February. That's just what I've heard.
Yeah, they intend to move very quickly with it.
Absolutely, and you're perfect to be jumping on it soon, because send a strong message. And this was the key. The reason the I Will Not Comply rally got support from all over America, and I mean that literally. We had speakers and people flying of their own volition from Georgia to come here and be a part of this. People like Mike Vanderbilt and Sheriff Richard Mack, people coming in to stand with us, because the significance of this was key in that in the past we've said, well, let's have protests. And this wasn't a protest. It was a protest, too, but this was more than that. This was a mass felony civil disobedience of people saying absolutely not. And if you send a clear message to those legislators and make sure they know that you're not asking, you're not saying, hey, please don't pass this law. You're saying we're letting you know that you have zero authority to restrict our rights, and if you do, you are a lawless criminal and will be regarded as such. And your lawless legislation that you pass upon us will have no weight, and we will immediately and defiantly violate it in every possible way. We have to start pushing back against these tyrants. We've got to stop playing the game, and we've done this for too long. And I've gotten in trouble a little bit because a lot of the big gun organizations and things like that, they don't like my approach, and I tend to just say, hey, let's take it head on. And people like me, like those of us who are working closely to organize this event, like Anthony Bosworth, like Kit Lang, we said no. And the people gathered and they rallied around that and they said no. And the reason this took off so well is not because we're such geniuses. It's because we said we're not playing the game. We will not get a permit to gather. We will not ask permission. We're taking back our rights. The thing to remember is we've been debating this the wrong way. Arguments for any gun restriction are irrelevant because nothing that can be said changes our rights ever. So we need to stop treating these anti-peace anarchists as people that deserve to be heard. They think they get to redefine laws as they go along, and that's lawless and criminal. We need to treat it as such. I don't need to debate my rights based on, well, guns make people safer, based on, oh, guns actually reduce crime. And all those things are true. I'm not saying those statistics are irrelevant, but it doesn't matter because I look at a lawless tyrant in the eye and I say, you don't understand. This isn't a negotiation. Your opinion of whether I get to maintain my rights is irrelevant.
That's exactly one of the things that I've been trying to get people to understand is the time for talk is over. The time for action is upon us. And we need to get out there. We need to find strong leaders who will stand up and say, hey, not only am I going to take action, but I've got a few thousand people behind me willing to back me up. And apparently, you are going to be one of those leaders that we're looking for.
Well, we do have a question.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Sorry about that, Gavin. We do have a question in our chat room. The question is, where is the NRA? Where is the NRA?
Well, and unfortunately, while the NRA did do some promoting to try and prevent 594 from passing, they have taken some criticisms in terms of how much they did. But this is one of my disappointments. We had an open invite out to all the gun organizations. America stood on 12, 13, 14. They stood up and they said no, and not one of our major gun organizations, not even on a state level, not one of them stood there with us, as near as we can tell. They were silent on this, and this is huge. People should not let this go unnoticed, because I'm not interested in organizations like the NRA saying, well, we're gonna work with them. We're gonna smile and shake hands. We're gonna negotiate away some of your rights. And I told them this flat out. I called the NRA and I said, listen, they said to me as we were having a discussion, well, they keep taking more of our rights. And I said, no, you're wrong. Let's stop right there. They're not taking any of my rights because they never had the right to give them in the first place. I'm standing up for my rights. I'm not backing down, and you do not have the authority to negotiate my children's birthright for something that you want to get in return. And that's what we need to start remembering. This is not a negotiation. And the message we saw on the 13th is when the people stand up, and I've seen this over and over again taking on different stands. We saw it at the Bundy Ranch. I've seen it on more localized issues dealing with lawless law enforcement, lawless public officials. When you stand a line and you look them in the eye and you say, you are the servant and we are the masters, and we will stand on liberty and principle, but we will not back down. And that's what's starting to happen with people starting to stand up, and this can happen all over America. The gun grabbers have gone too far now. They've said, we're gonna take it. And let's make no mistake, what they're doing with laws like 594 is just a step away from confiscation. They've gone too far, and now the people are saying, we're done. We're not only not following this, we're taking back the rest of our rights. We're not allowing your laws to be considered relevant. We need to take back every gun restriction and trample it into the mud, because the only legal gun law is the Second Amendment. That's the supreme law. And I'm tired of debating with people that don't speak English, because when I read shall not be infringed, and they say, well, it's all how you interpret it. And I say, I don't interpret. I speak English. Do you? Because that's all that's relevant to me. I don't care about their irrational fear of my guns. I don't care about people saying, well, we have to have this and we have to have that. This restriction is reasonable. It's time to stop negotiating. No gun restriction makes us safer. And read my lips. The people should be armed equal to government. That's what the framers intended. That's the intent of the Second Amendment. And I have followed this all the way back. We have the right and the authority to make sure that our government cannot have a higher level of armament the citizen communities, so that we can prevent them from going too far. So to the cowards and haters of liberty, let your names fade into the night. Let our posterity never say these were men to emulate. Let the just know that your approval is not needed, and that your willingness to be trampled defines insanity for those with the courage to stand principled for liberty.
Gavin, Brandy here. Quick question for you is how do we hold these legislators accountable? How do we make them answer for this?
Well, there's various aspects to approach this. First of all, in Washington and in a lot of states, there's a handful of legislators that are liberty legislators, and we have in Washington kind of a liberty team. You know, we have people like Dave Taylor, like Jason Overstreet, Elizabeth Scott, and Matt Shea, and some of these legislators, like Graham Hunt, Elizabeth Scott, they were at the rally standing with us. They were there with our declaration, signing that and saying, I will uphold this, and I'm done allowing this to be trampled. So first of all, let's not assume that just because they're a politician that they never stand with us, even though they're a minority. We shouldn't underestimate the power of a tireless minority, even in our legislatures. The other side
I'm saying
of that,
when it comes to the vote, and somebody actually votes and puts their name on record as having stripped constitutional right in some way, shape, form, or fashion.
Gotcha.
So
Go ahead, sorry.
Just to draw a distinction between the two.
Right. Recall them. And obviously this varies by state, but we saw this in Colorado a few years ago when they passed some very egregious gun restrictions. The people took to the streets and they threw their butts out of office. I think they threw 2 senators out. So let's start sending a message. Number one, start knowing who you're voting for. Number two, with your public officials, you know, all the way down to your town's mayor and your city council, get together and start taking action. And obviously, yes, this is easier said than done, but people can do this. You can recall these people. You can get the message going and throw them out of office. I think that the key here, and this is something I talk about a lot, is the conversation. You need the conversation spreading far and wide to educate people, to get them noticing this, keep it simple and concise, and get the message out. And quite frankly, liberty is terrible at the conversation. The enemies of liberty know that if they market themselves, if they throw money at it, if they make it look pretty and they dress it up, that uninformed people will go for it. And for years now, the conservatives, the liberty people, the patriots, they just kind of hide in the corner and let the people out there with the bullhorn spread the message. And this was key in our rally, because the groups would come to us and they would say, well, listen, you guys need to back off a little bit, because you're gonna give the media ammunition and they're going to make us look bad. And I said, listen, I don't care what the media thinks of me. The media will carry the message regardless for us, because we're not letting the media control the message. We're controlling the message. And that is exactly what we've seen. Sure, the Seattle Times and these anti-liberty hate groups that hate liberty are saying, oh, these guys are mentally ill and these guys are insane because of what they're doing. I don't care what they say. That's irrelevant to me, because as we just talked about, their willingness to be trampled defines insanity for those of us that support liberty. So if an insane group over here, like the Southern Poverty Law Center, is doing a hit piece on me saying, Gavin's a crazy guy, I'm like, well, that's kind of a compliment, because you people are absolutely nuts. So, come on. Why should I be offended? We've got to stop being afraid of what the media says. And back to my point, that's exactly what came out of this. The mainstream media is ignoring this as much as possible, although they're not able to ignore it entirely. But the liberty media, the bloggers, the news types, it's all over the country. It's being talked about everywhere, because history was made on 12/13/14. And it's a day that we will remember as a turning point and a reminder that we can stand up and take action. And let's all be clear. The reason we're standing up now, the reason we're saying no, is we have to. Because liberty is being taken. Our kids' birthright is being taken away. And if we don't stand up now, make no mistake, they will have to take liberty back at the price of blood. And the reason we're standing up, people say, well, Gavin, you're just a revolutionary. Last thing I want is a bloody revolution. Bloody revolution is the last resort of good men. But at some point, if your government tramples you enough, it's inevitable. It will come to that. What we're doing is standing up now so that we can prevent that. We're sticking our necks out now while they're not getting cut off yet, so that we can start taking it back before it's absolutely too late and there's no other way.
Okay, Gavin, just hold on here just a second. I think something that you said got the attention of one of our callers, and I believe that she wants to ask you a question. Now, we've got the real Barbie online this time. Barbie, hi, did you have a question for Gavin?
The real Barbie online? Did I miss something?
Your phone number shows up the same as Gavin's, and so we thought it was you when we were talking to Gavin.
This is actually the true Barbie. She runs the Patriots Information Hotline. She is a sister network to the We Resistors Radio Network, doing some awesome stuff. And a lady you do not want to piss off, because her husband doesn't even know how many guns she owns.
All right, so go ahead, Barbie. You had something you wanted to say?
Well, I'm listening to you talk about how the liberty movement, and I got to correct you on a few things. In the Civil War, the Bloody War, I got to see if I can say this correctly. There are several faction groups that already have plans in the works for 2015 at different dates, different groups, on trying to start the Civil War.
Okay. So are you asking for my opinion on that, or just making a statement?
I'm making a couple of statements here.
Okay.
I'm informing you.
Right.
The liberty movement is so fractured. it's enough to make you cry. It really is.
Right. You're absolutely right, Barbie. That is one of the biggest issues in the liberty movement at this point, is that we are a very fractured and divided community, and unfortunately, there are a lot of people out there who are trying to promote an armed revolution. And just for the record, Drew Forseti is not one of those. Not saying I wouldn't participate if it should come down to it, but I don't believe we're there, and I'm really hoping we can solve these issues before we get to that point. So, Gavin, I'm going to let you take a moment to comment on that and tell us your opinion on that.
Well, let me start with let me just address both. Number one, you're right. There's always fracturing going on. And the truth is, the other side does this as well. It's just they have a lot more money to throw at it. They have a lot more resources. For some reason, us Liberty Patriots tend to be broke, and we just kind of got to say a prayer and do the best we can. So that's the nature of it, and we work with what we can. The division
Gavin?
is a real problem. Yes.
Gavin,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to stop you there because that's not true. With everything that has gone on in 2014, and there's been a lot that has gone on, there has been a lot of people that have stood up, that have helped. Bundy Ranch, the southern border, Ferguson, 23 cities across the country that I know of that we're in, Washington, D.C., there's been a lot of people that have stood up and done things, that have put their jobs on hold, that put their lives on hold, their families on hold, and went out and tried to help. It's
right. I'm not sure what we're disagreeing on, though, because that's true. What I'm saying is
it's not a money problem.
Okay, Barbie. It's only
Barbie.
It's only fair to let Gavin respond.
Yeah, I think you're misunderstanding me, because it's the issue. What I'm saying is not that we need tons of money, although resources, of course, help us. What I'm saying is actually what you just said. People are putting their jobs on hold. They are putting their lives on hold. It's not like we get to go out and stand up for liberty and get paid full-time jobs like the opposition. The opposition has more resources, and just like in the American Revolution when they stood, they had less resources too. We have to make the best we can with our resources, and those of us standing up, and the patriots standing up for liberty all over America, and we saw a lot of this, like you said, in 2014, are sacrificing a lot, and they're getting a lot done with a little. We had very few resources in the putting on of this rally. A lot of people pitched in as much as they could, and it made a huge difference. And we threw this massive rally over there with just a few $1,000s worth of resources. But let me go back to your question. I'm sure there's groups saying, let's start a revolution. The point I'm making is that bloody revolution is the last resort of good men. I, for one, will not throw the first punch, and I will not fire the first shot. And most of the patriots I know are in the same boat. Now, on the internet, there's groups, and there's these people, and they get all fired up, and they're getting angry, and they say, let's get this revolution started. I have seen firsthand, because I was at the Bundy Ranch, I was on the ground, and the Second American Revolution did almost start. And it's so hard to convey how serious it was down there and how bad things were looking. But it didn't. And when push came to shove, the patriots were not in a hurry to start a revolution. When you were there on the ground looking that in the face, we knew what that meant. We knew how serious it was. It wasn't Call of Duty anymore. We were in there dealing with the real thing. So I think we just need to continue with the message of we stand on principle, we stand on liberty, and we continue doing so no matter what, and we uphold that principle. I did an article that caused a bit of a stir on my blog recently because I said, I'm going to say it out loud. I'm going to say revolution. And I talked about revolution. I talked about the fact that we don't need to be terrified of the word. We just need to recognize what it means, that we have a right to revolt if need be, but we need to stand up now. We need to do whatever we can to stop that, because I seek no violence, but we should make no mistake, a war has been declared on liberty. So we're standing now to avoid the spilling of blood. And it's the idea that we can revolt if needed is well upheld in history. John Locke, in the Second Treatise of Government, said in all states and conditions, the true remedy of force without authority is to oppose force to it. The use of force without authority always puts him that uses it into a state of war as the aggressor and renders him liable to be treated accordingly.
All right, Gavin, I need to interrupt you here real quick because Brandy has a question.
Actually, I just wanted to address the money issue. You know, the money that is being spent on the other side is a lot of putting lipstick on a pig. There's not a lot of substance behind it. And what you see with the Patriot movement and the Liberty movement is you see substantive changes and actions that have results. So as much money as Bloomberg threw at this thing, it didn't matter. So
well, that's the thing.
We have to not be afraid of that, I guess, is what I'm. This is a great example.
And I'm not afraid of it, and there's nothing that I could do about it, even if I was. I stand on principle, and I do the best I can with what I have. What I'm saying is the rally this weekend's a perfect example, because you can bet that Bloomberg and his cronies are not happy. I mean, they spent millions and millions and millions of dollars, and here this little ragtag group of gun-toting, liberty-loving patriots gathered, and with about $3,000 or $4,000, they got together and they said no, and they nullified this, and they stood up to it. So what I'm saying is not that we can't take liberty back until we have tons of money, so don't mistake me. I'm saying we need to recognize the situation, and we need to be realistic. The opposition has more media, they have more resources, and we have to use our resources as best as possible. And coming back to what Barbie said about division, we have to understand that we have to unite on principle, and even though we don't always agree, we have to keep forging forward. As long as we're on the same page for liberty, as long as we can stand side by side for what's just and right, we need to keep doing that. And we have a lot of groups and fracturing and all this stuff going on. Let's forget the facts.
Gavin, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt you because we have to go into our break. But I want you to stay with us because I really want to continue this conversation into our next hour. Excuse me. But unfortunately, at this point, we do have to take our hourly break.
Yeah, his program manager is getting all over his case. You are listening to the We Resistors Radio Network. You are listening to my buddy Drew Forseti and his guest in the studio with him tonight, Brandy Medina.
And Gavin.
Just shut up. It's Spotlight.
I know, you've got two lines.
We have some wonderful people on the line with us, and I see a whole bunch of questions. We will get to you after the break. You are listening to our featured guest, Gavin, as well as Barbie from the
Patriots Information
Hotline. I need another drink. It's time for a break. So we will be right back. Make sure you stand by. And if we haven't got to your question yet, I promise you, as soon as we get back from the break, we will hear your voice on the air.
All right, so on this break, we're not going to actually play a song this time. I found a speech on gun rights by a Secret Service agent that I thought was just absolutely wonderful, and I feel the need to share it on tonight's show. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and go into this, and we'll be right back after this speech.
And yes, I wear boots and jeans, and I don't apologize for it. I'm that middle-class American that Barack Obama was supposedly running for until you saw your paycheck go down last week. Felt great, didn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, there's no such thing as gun control. Don't co-opt their language. There's only people control. And I can prove it to you. I spent 16 years of my life with a badge on my chest, which served as a target for some, unfortunately. I don't remember ever having the conversation during my years in the Secret Service. Hey, listen, we're taking the president to Baltimore, to Chicago, so let's just disarm because they have really strict gun control laws. Now, why is that funny? The reason is it's funny because it's funny. I never, in 15 plus years of doing this, have ever arrested or investigated someone on a gun crime who had that gun legally.
Amen.
So you have to ask yourself, why? It's not about gun control. Do not co-opt the language. When they own the language, they own the argument.
Yes.
There is a reason they are doing this. You know, folks, it may disappoint some here, but I could have carried a gun my entire time, anywhere in the United States, on planes, wherever I chose. I didn't. That was my choice. It may have been a foolish one, but it was my choice. It was my choice. It was my God-given right to be able to protect myself and my family. That was my right, not given to me by a piece of paper, only insured by that piece of paper. That is not up for debate. The right to petition, the right to assemble so beautifully on this day, the right to speech is not given to you by the governor or the president of the United States. That is not his to give. And if it is not his to give, it is not his or her or anyone else's to take away. Anyone! Ladies and gentlemen, we are in perilous times. You know, I'm just a man. My spirit's been almost broken over this. This is our country. That flag represents something. Men and women have died horrible deaths. Horrible deaths. My uncle being one of them. Shot in the back in Vietnam to protect your very right. Your liberty, your decisions, your decision to be able to protect your family. We live, unfortunately, and Lord, it pains me to say this, but we live in a society of wolves. You do not fight back by creating more sheep. You do. These are tough times, folks. And I want to leave you with this thought. Our revolution was one of the only revolutions in human history where those who defeated our enemies and took power created a document that disempowered them. Here, on this soil, in this country, in this collective group of people we call the beautiful United States, it pains me to say this. I'm not a right-wing nut job. I'm not a xenophobe. I'm not a misogynist. I'm just a man. I'm just a guy who wants to live and let live. I don't mind paying taxes for our military. I will give you my last dollar to fund our beautiful veterans that come home missing parts of their body if they come home at all. But ladies and gentlemen, these are your tax dollars to pay a government that is slowly but surely every day whittling away more and more of your ability to live and let live is not what people who died and bled for meant this country to be. That is not what that represents. That is not a piece of fabric. It is not a tablecloth. That is an idea. An idea that's unique to this place right now, right here. Act. Do not talk. Action matters. This speech is meaningless without action. If you here are not registered to vote, you are not part of the problem. You are the problem. And I'm sorry if you don't want to hear that. If you did not show up because it was chilly, or you felt like your vote didn't make a difference, you're the problem. If you are not out here today finding some way in your sphere of influence to echo chamber this message to 20 or 30 people, you're the problem. And if in this next election in 2014, you're not volunteering, or you're not talking, or you're not registered, or you're not voting, you're the problem. Action matters. Action changes the world. Talk is cheap. Your liberty is not. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.
All right, and we're back. Yes, this is the We Resistors Radio Network, and you're listening to the Druth About. I'm your host, Loki. I'm Drew Forseti, with my co-host, Loki King, and our special guest
I'm Brandy.
Tonight, our special guest tonight, Brandy.
Well, he almost had it correct. The egotistical Buddhist.
Right.
Man.
All right, and as is usual for our third hour, we're going to open it up for just general conversation, questions and answers, and what have you. Now, Gavin has agreed to stay with us for a little while longer, but he's only going to be able to be with us for about another 25 minutes or so. So we're going to open up everybody's mic who has offered to speak with us.
Yeah, before we
go too much further, can we talk about the economics again for a minute?
Oh, hold on just a minute. I want to get to what Loki has to say first.
Hold on just a second for me, Barb. I love you.
Economics. I love economics.
Colby, hold on a second. I want to talk. Just remember, we are on an internet radio, so there is a little bit of a lag. So you need to be respectful of everybody and make sure that you are not trying to talk over one another. And when somebody asks a question or makes a comment, make sure they are completely done with their statement before you try to rebut the issue.
All right, so we're going to... Okay, somebody...
Point of order, hot mic.
Okay, Gavin, I'm very sorry, but you've got a lot of background noise going on there, so we had to mute you for a minute. So, Barbie, go ahead and let's talk about what you wanted to talk about real quick, and hopefully whatever's going on with Gavin will be over soon enough.
I just wanted to point out something else about economics that a lot of people are missing right now. Have you noticed the gas prices?
Yes, I have. The whole country has noticed.
Do you like them? Or do you like the new gas prices?
Okay, that's a trick question, but just for sake of argument, yes, I do like the new gas prices, Barbie. Tell me, why is it wrong for me to like them?
Because you're paying a 70% increase in groceries, and you didn't even realize it.
Some of us did.
Yeah, I was going to say, believe me, those of us on the lower income scale, we've noticed. All right, I'm going to try Gavin again, see if whatever that noise was is finished in the background. Gavin, are you still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I didn't hear a noise, but I realized I was on the wrong mic, so I should be a little clearer now. I wasn't on the studio mic. I was on the webcam.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there was something going on in the background or whatever. It was really causing a lot of distortion on your line, so we had to mute you just for a minute. But, excuse me. So I'm going to just let everybody say what they need to say, and Colby, you're up.
Oh, put me on the spot. I think Gavin was right and wrong in one sense. I think that liberty is rising, as a really good journalist, Ben Swan, would say. Liberty is rising. But the problem is, even when liberty rises, the financial stifle that we have on our political system is crippling the voices of the people. It always has, it always will. There's a lot of different factions out there that say, oh, we could take corporations out of this, and we could take this out of that. But none of it's actually anything but benefit for their own side of the particular political argument, which is always a problem. It is a problem. Money is the root of all of the problem, in all honesty. I mean, look at the years of Patrick Henry. Look at your guys' rally up there. Money controls everything. And the problem is, until we realize that monetary value is really nothing but a piece of paper and has nothing to do with anything, we won't get past it. And we're not going to find that with most people. Most people understand that money rules the world, and that's how life works. But we don't have those type of people in our general populace that honestly comprehend that, without a sound money, we don't have money. It's a dynamic factor that we have all over the place. I mean, there's so many people that aren't actually into realizing what's really going on. Everything is a giant fictitious bubble to them. I mean, everything's YouTube or Pinterest or this, that, or the other, which is good for everybody in some sense, but it's just a giant bubble we have where people have been sucked into this realm of fictitious for lack of a better word, bullshit that's financially compensating somebody else, and nobody cares. They don't care. Nobody cares how they vote 90% of the time. They don't care if they're voting for a crony or a non-crony person until it affects them. And until something affects someone, they have no care in the world for how a political system works whatsoever. And we have to figure out how to bridge that gap between does it affect you or doesn't it affect you. Because once they realize it affects them, it completely completes their circle of mentality of, I should be paying attention to this because it does affect my wallet. And it affects everyone, but they just don't realize it.
Hi, Colby. It's Brandy.
Go ahead.
I think a big part of the problem is that our kids aren't learning the Bill of Rights, and they don't know the Constitution, and so they're growing up in this bubble. Yeah, you know, the video games and the TV or anything that keeps them from focusing on the future of this country. And you know, I happen to feel that that's an intentional thing.
You know, if I may respond to this.
Go ahead.
This is Gavin, just to be clear. Couple of things. I'm a bit of an unexpected activist. I didn't ever plan to get into politics. I didn't plan to run for Congress. I am a portraitist. I'm a pictorialist. I make family portraits for people's walls. I teach photography. I'm just a American guy with a small business and a family to feed. And in my travels and in going around America, I finally said one day, no, enough is enough. Money rules the world only when people fail to rule their government. And, you know, I brought up money earlier only to help us recognize who our enemy is. But I've seen this time and time again, and people come to me and they say, well, you know, what about the Fed? And let me be clear. I'm all for getting rid of the Fed. I'm all for getting rid of the IRS. We are broken all the way to the top, to the point where a collapse of some sort is likely. But let's get back to the root and the principle. When you raise your children right, when you don't let the government raise your children and fill them full of nonsense and lies and things that oppose everything we believe in as people of liberty, as people who are of faith, if we get back to that root, you have to get past this and that and the conspiracy theories and all this. And I say conspiracy theories in a general sense because a lot of the conspiracy theories are true, which makes them not theory, it makes them fact. And I understand that. What I'm saying is I'm fully supportive of capitalism. It works. Economics works. The reason America is falling is because people are sitting on their couch, drinking beer and eating Cheetos and watching their entertainment instead of standing up for liberty. And I ask the people who are out there saying, oh, it's all the money's fault, it's all the corporation's fault, it's all the government's fault. And to our caller, I'm not suggesting that is you. I'm just making a general statement here. What have you done for liberty today? Because let me tell you, my business suffers. My finances suffer. And I'm not looking for pity. I'm saying that the normal, everyday person standing up is who takes liberty back. It's all of us standing up and being the sentinels of liberty that the people that framed this country intended us. And let me just close with this. Give me 20% of the passion, men, that you have for football, and we will save America.
Right on.
I like that,
Amen.
especially being a fan of football.
Right on.
Yeah, and you don't even have to give it up, right? You get to keep 80%. But I see, and I'm sorry, I see this especially among the men. I see a lot of times the women more passionate for their children and for justice, and I'm certainly not trying to make a completely general statement here, but I know a lot of men, and they're apathetic. They're like, oh, yeah, I support gun rights. When's the game on? And it's like, you know what? Your job is to protect your family. It's to protect your country, and it's to act principled. And if we're so busy watching the latest TV show or the latest sports game, but like somebody said earlier, we can't even go out in the cold, stand up against a tyrant, then what do we expect?
Point. Can I
Loki,
kidnap you and bring you over on my network?
Gavin, you seem to have made some friends today.
And I want to remind folks that if you do want to call in, you can actually call in a couple different ways. The number to call in is 347-857-4397. That's 347-857-4397. Or you can use the Skype option. Now, we do have a couple listeners that I do know are listening. I do know if they are that are muted right now. I'm actually going to take your mics live. So if you have a comment, feel free to join the conversation. Just be respectful of one another, and we'll get along great.
All right, and
Hey.
Chuck, just so you know, you're live.
Hi, Chuck. Okay, thank you. Hi, darling. I was having a little bit of trouble with my, with the platform, so to speak. Question: didn't get a real good intro on your guest. Sir, you are running for Congress. Did I understand that right?
No, I ran for Congress this summer, and I did not win. And being a 29-year-old who nobody had ever heard of before, I'm actually quite proud of my 2% in a 12-way divided primary. We made a big, big splash, even though I didn't win, and we brought the whole race to the constitutional side. But so yes, I am a portraitist and a pictorialist. I teach photography. I make educational videos, and that's kind of my day job. And then that grew into liberty speaking and activism because I started standing up to checkpoints and things like that. I have a YouTube channel. And then I got fed up and said, okay, I'm done complaining at politicians. I will run against them. And I challenged a 20-year congressional veteran about this time last year. And actually about 2 months after I challenged him, he stepped down. So even though I didn't win that election, we really shifted the paradigm, I think, by running. And it's just one more reminder that we all of us have to stand up and do something. And I say this to people all the time. They're in their community and they say, well, my city council or my county commissioners, and they're out of control. And I say, well, there's different ways you can do it, but one of those means sometimes you have to step up and run against them.
And just for clarification purposes, Chuck, Gavin was the gentleman that organized the protest that went on up in Olympia, Washington, that fought and kind of debunked the I-594 issue where you had to actually get or do a background check before you can pass back and forth firearms both ways, from the owner to somebody else and back to the owner. So that is where Gavin comes in.
And I also just want to make a call out to Ellery and let you know that your mic is also live if you have something that you wish to say. All right, Chuck, go ahead.
Okay. Gavin, how about a shout-out for your YouTube channel? What is it called?
You can find – the best way to get to it is just to go to my website, callmeyav.com, and just keep it simple. There's links there to my YouTube, my Twitter, my Facebook, all of that stuff right there on the site.
Okay.
Callmeyav.com.
Being a major cynic when it comes to a political solution to what we're facing today, I do not see a political solution to this. I only see this coming to an end when we hit an absolute collapse, when the American people are hungry and they're forced with a very hard question, which will probably not go the way we want it to. When we talk about we've nullified this law in Washington, and I understand you can claim the stance of selective enforcement, will a judge allow that argument even to be in a court of law today?
Certainly, and I've even talked to an attorney about this because, just to be clear, I study law a lot, but I'm not an attorney. And there's examples of this, and the truth is, it's going to be very hard for them to enforce this at this point because the people stood up and nullified. You know, the people nullifying doesn't mean the government can't try to still abuse it, but you have such a massive precedent now, and it's not one that's ending. I mean, there's another rally in Spokane this weekend. There's people openly posting videos of them violating this law. The message is carrying, and it's working.
Let me ask you this. I'm not sure where you live versus how far your state capital is, but if someone were to go there with a video camera, pigeonhole these representatives, and the governor, if given the opportunity, and say, hey, I violated your law. You're going to have me arrested? I mean, really get in their face with it. You've got a YouTube channel. Get in their face and say, I violated your law and was not arrested. Are you going to selectively enforce this?
Yeah, and they would run from me. And let me be clear, I do a lot of that kind of activism. I haven't done that specifically on this other than calling them out from the stage. and when I'm speaking, but I do a lot of this kind of thing with public officials where I challenge them very defiantly, and most of them know me to some degree when they run into me, and they tend to run. Is usually what happens. I've had encounters with police here in unmarked vehicles and stopping officers and things like that. And in my county, pretty much when I pass a police officer, they watch in their rear mirror for my brake lights, not the other way around. So I don't disagree with you. And what I encourage everybody to do is to stand up, not to shout obscenities or be rude or anything like that. People call me rude that don't like me all the time, but the truth is I just call them out on the facts, and I do this a lot. And if we would all be activists a bit, we could change this whole paradigm. I mean, that's really how I got started, was by refusing lawless officials. And so what you bring up is certainly a good idea, and I think we're going to see more of this because the politicians that don't support it, and there's a few of them that do support our liberty, but the ones that don't, they're going to be trying to run and hide from this. Let me go back real quick to something you said earlier, though. You don't think there's a legislative solution, and I don't necessarily disagree with you. And let me be clear, when I ran for Congress, I ran as, yes, I'm going to vote constitutional, and I'm going to be one more constitutional vote in the Congress. But I also ran with what I do, and that is unstoppable conversations. We need to light the brush fires of liberty, because whether it's savable or not, especially at the federal level, something's got to come unglued. I mean, it's a mess. But I didn't run saying I can run in there and change everybody's mind and fix everything. I ran because I know that a principled person in a public office, even if you can't fix it, you can turn the country upside down by standing up for liberty and what's right, and you can start conversations that cannot be suppressed.
Well, I applaud your efforts. and
all right, and with that,
we can do.
All right, and with that, and Gavin, I want to let you know that you have made a friend in the We Resistors radio network today, in myself, if nobody else. I know Chuck; he's a cynical old bastard, and it's hard to say if you made a friend out of him.
Hey, you know what? But, I ran for Congress, so I dealt with a lot of cynical people, and usually I won them over in the end because I don't play politics. I just say it like it is.
All right, now, Gavin, I
want
to give you.
I'm in the fight.
I
may be cynical, but I am in the fight. So
absolutely.
Okay.
We're grateful, Gavin.
Okay, I need to do some talking here, folks, okay? Now, Gavin, I know that you've got just a few minutes left before you got to go, so I'm going to give you a couple minutes to do some shameless self-promotion, talk about what you're going to be doing next, give people ways to contact you, that kind of stuff, okay? Go.
If I can do that. Basically, just go to callmegav.com. We're going to be continuing with this, but let me be clear, my passion and my message isn't guns in particular, although that's how we defend liberty, so I stand up for those absolutely. My passion is liberty, and my message is always the same. It's constitutional, and it's standing on principle. We can't go back and forth. We can't waver. We have to be consistent, and liberty has to be for everyone in the same manner. We can't say, well, I don't like these protesters down in LA, so therefore arrest them all, even though they haven't done anything, they haven't hurt anybody. We can't say, this is what I want. I don't want my neighbor to be able to have a car on his lawn, so let's pass a law where they invade his property and he gets his property confiscated for that. I'm making generalizations here. What I'm saying is, let's remember the picture, the bigger picture of liberty, and starting those conversations and educating people, because I can tell you firsthand, people do not understand their liberty, they don't understand their rights, and I realize it's their fault. It's been happening for generations. It's the fault of parents. It's the fault of us who haven't done our homework. What I'm going to continue doing is just keep plugging along, feeding my family, standing up for my faith, my principle, and just saying, no, this is law, this is justice, and we'll stand up for it. In terms of 594, we're going to continue violating it. I actually have another event, and me and people working with me are planning another event this summer to continue on from the I Will Not Comply rally, and it's called Arms Expo, and it's going to be a multi-day event. This is going to be on private property, but we're going to be continuing to blatantly violate 594, and we're also going to do it in an environment that's kind of like a gun show. There's going to be vendors and prepper expo and gun expo and arms and educational workshops and speakers, and it's going to be a really phenomenal thing. So you can go to my website And if you want to, you can sign up for my newsletter over there to learn more about that. And bottom line is callmegav.com. And with that, I don't have a ton of shameless self-promotion, so I'm not super tight on time. If you want to take another caller or something like that, you're welcome to, or we can wrap it up for the night.
All right. Well, what I'd like to do is I'd like to go back to Ellery because he's been very patient. It's almost as if we forgot him, and ask him if he's got anything that he would like to ask or any comments he'd like to make.
Yeah, Gav did a great job up there. Definitely, all the speakers did, and everybody out there did great. At the beginning of this show, Bill brought up you got State Patrol because there's all these armed men that State Patrol didn't step in. Now, back at the Sullivan Klein hearing back in 2010, officers didn't step in. They see that this community, whether it be the firearms community, the open carry community, they have never had a problem with that. There was a 2A rally, the Second Amendment rally a few years back. Same thing. They actually appreciate us and the way we handle things. And with that being said, I'm going to go on to I just spoke of, let's go after these legislators and ask them, well, what are you going to do about it? And on January 15th at 9 o'clock, there's going to be a rally down in Olympia. And I believe that's the first day of the legislation being reopened. We've had going in there and talking to our legislators. 800 people showing up, something like that, I don't know. But, and back to Gavin about the education, I touched up on it after you played the clip from my kid. I think trying to educate people in a polite manner, of course, trying to educate people is going to do a lot more to help get the cause of our freedoms out there so people just don't forget it.
Absolutely. And I think that's the message we need to continue. And we need to remember great respect for just authority requires a matched disrespect for unjust authority. And this is the key with these other rallies coming up. Sometimes the gun groups and these people are afraid to take it to them. And there was a lot of people that didn't support the historic rally last weekend because we said, no, we're not negotiating. We will not ask for a permit. And the state was trying to say we had to get permission from them to gather and all this stuff. And we said, nah, that's not happening. So the key thing to remember here among all these groups is it's time to take up courage. We're not at the point yet where we want to be violent. But if they will attack us, if they will come to us, if they dare to assault our liberty, then they should expect a response from people, which is why we stand up now. So don't go to these legislators. Don't go to these groups and be afraid of these politicians and these anti-liberty groups and be afraid of scaring them off. And this is a message that I see sometimes that we really need to deal with and take up courage. Liberty has no partnership with tyranny because the evil will inevitably overcome the good. Do not go to these legislators and shake hands and smile and negotiate for your rights. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in liberty. I go to a legislator and I will look them in the eye and I will say, you will uphold the law or you will face consequences, be it recall or replacement, or we will completely ignore you like we did on Saturday. The time has come to stand up, and for too long we've been cowering in corners and saying, well, let's just play nice. Let's talk to them. I'm not negotiating with bureaucratic terrorists, and neither should you.
Wow, I don't think I could have said that better myself. And I talk for a living.
The difference is,
cool.
People
great.
will actually listen to Gavin.
Yeah, I know.
Not always. I make just as many enemies as friends as I'm sure you can imagine. And I get a lot of established groups and people, sometimes they don't like what I do because I'm not interested in playing games. But what I say is I'm also not interested in holding grudges. And we had a lot of groups for the rally last weekend that weren't very supportive. But I'm saying to them, come out, take up your courage, and start standing with us. Don't play games with liberty. Don't negotiate for it. Join us, because there's basically two sides. Ultimately, we have good and we have evil here. We have liberty and we have tyranny, and we need to start standing up. The same with our officers. The last caller mentioned the Washington State Patrol. They did great on Saturday. They chose to not stand up to us, and you could say, well, it's because they upheld their oath, which they did. That was great. Some people might argue, well, it's just because we were armed. That's fine. We were armed, and the truth is you're not likely to show me a situation where any mass arrest occurs when the people are armed. So one more case for being armed. But the point is they were respectful. We worked with them. They worked with us, and they upheld their oath, and we set a huge precedent there. So we want to encourage our public officials, our officers, to uphold the law, to uphold their oath. But, boy, if they don't, we come out and we deal with it. We don't say, well, that was an exception. We don't smile and shake hands. If you will violate your oath, then you should expect to be dealt with very harshly, because the Constitution gives us nothing. It's the law we, the people, placed on you, government, to protect liberty. And it only does so if we enforce it. And there's this common ideology in America now where everybody's afraid to call a public official bad or to call a police officer bad. And they say, well, most of them are good. And okay, fine. But let's remember what the measure of a good public official, a good police officer is. You're not measured as good. You're not a good officer because you don't kick me in the head by the side of the road. You're a good officer if you uphold my rights, and defend them with your life, like you swore to do. So, just keeping your head down and staying out of it and not doing anything, that doesn't make you a good officer. You have to stand with us, and you have to uphold the liberty that you swore to protect. And we should really encourage our public officials and officers that do so and support them so that we can get more of them.
Okay, no response to that, huh? I thought for sure somebody would have something to say about that. Okay. Now, Gavin, you have given us a lot of inspiration, and you've explained to us, excuse me, quite well exactly why it is that you're doing what you do. And Loki, can I get you to give her those headphones real quick? I want to introduce everybody to the reason that I do what we do here on the We Resistors Radio Network, and just. Okay. Well, okay. Anyway, we're gonna try to do this, and I want everybody to understand that this is the reason that all of us should be doing what we do, because for us, for the most part, we're all getting up there to an age, well, except for maybe Colby, where we're probably going to spend the rest of our lives this way as old, cynical, people. But we all have children, and this is the reason that we do it. Say hi to everybody, sweetie.
Hi.
Okay.
Hi.
She is the reason. She is the reason that I am here every Thursday night. She's the reason that I go out and do the protests, and I go out and I stand out in the cold, and I send in my ballot every year or every 2 years. And even though, there are many people out there who say, well, your vote doesn't count. Well, I don't care if my vote counts. I'm going to do it anyway because I know it's the right thing to do. She is the reason that this fight is so important, because even though we are living in tyranny now, that doesn't excuse us from making sure that our children don't have to live in tyranny, and that their children don't have to live in tyranny. It's our responsibility to make sure that that happens.
Our children are our hope for our country as well. So
exactly.
And the one thing that I do want to point out is she can actually shoot a pistol better than her own dad can.
She is. She's
a
girl,
much better shot.
Tell
That's
them.
awesome.
I shot an apple right through the middle of the core once.
Was it off your dad's head? I hope not.
No, it was
not
actually
he's not that good of a shot.
No. It was actually a 380 that she was firing, and it was actually the very first time that she had gone out shooting. And she fired that very well, shot the apple core right in the middle. Now, I need to preface this, or I need to explain that we missed that apple every time we shot it. And yet she got out there and squeezed that trigger once, missed, but she was just a little low on it, squeezed it the second time, split that apple core right in half.
That's awesome. That's great. I'm going to have to run here, guys, but I really appreciate you having me here. And to your point, let me go back to Richard Henry Lee in 1788, because you raised a very good one. You both did. He said, to preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. Teach your children and your grandchildren about liberty. Teach them how to defend themselves. Teach them how to use guns. And as you said, we have to stand up for them now. I'm not standing up for me. If I get liberty, that's great. But the day I stopped at a checkpoint in Texas and looked them in the eye and said, no, I won't do that, that was the day I recognized that I was willing to sacrifice everything for my children's liberty. I may not get justice in this life, and if I do, that's great. But make no mistake, I will try. Even if I don't win, I will try to restore liberty, and that's what we all need to do. If liberty is lost, my children will never say to me, you didn't even try.
Exactly, and that's what it comes right down to. When I die, when I die, I know my daughter will be able to look at her friends and her peers and her colleagues, and she'll be able to say, he stood up. He did it.
Exactly.
And we might lose. There is a chance that we'll lose. But even if we lose, she will still be able to look at people with pride and say, we may have lost, but at least my dad tried. What did yours do?
Exactly. And justice will come eventually, even if it's not as quickly as we like it.
That's true.
Yep.
Hey,
Well,
thank you all.
Thank you very much, Gavin. We really, truly do appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us tonight. And as I said before, you have made a friend here on the We Resistors Radio Network. And
Thanks, Gavin.
I want you to know that you have an open invitation anytime you want to come back and chat with us again.
That's great. Love to join you guys again. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Awesome. We look forward to it.
And with
Bye-bye.
that, I want to stick in a sponsor plug here. You are actually listening to the Druth About on the We Resistors Radio Network. He is here every Thursday night battling the battle with all of us, trying to wake everybody up. So make sure you tune in each and every Thursday night for his show. He is an egotistical Buddhist, but we keep him under wraps. And with that, I'm going to actually switch gears on you because I am your program director and I can do that. We do have a rally coming up in the state of Oregon, February 9th. The heirs of Patrick Henry Northwest will be on the state capitol, which is a protest that will actually be happening during the week while the legislators and congressmen are in office. So we will be making a whole bunch of noise. Make sure you are there to help protect your rights, not only gun rights, but all rights in general, and say enough is enough.
I also believe that Chuck's not with us anymore, is he?
Chuck bounced.
Chuck bounced. Okay, well, I know that he's got one that he's going to in Texas as well. I think it's next week.
It is next weekend in Texas where he is going to go down there.
Yeah, so Chuck, if you're still listening, come back online and tell us about the protest that you will be attending in Texas. And for that matter, if anybody else knows of a protest or rally or what have you, dealing with any of the liberty movement issues, feel free to give us a call, let us know, and we will be happy to let everybody know about your particular protest or rally. All right. So, Barbie, I know that we cut you off last time you were trying to say something, so I'm going to let you have the next opportunity to speak to us after Loki says what he's going to say.
Drew did it. It wasn't me.
All right, Barbie, you're up next.
Am
Barbie,
I up
are you still
now?
with us? Yes, ma'am, you are.
Yes. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Barbie.
Hello, Barbie.
Drew's the one that cut you off. I just want to make that clear.
I have no
We're not-
buttons anywhere.
We're not saying hi to everybody, too. I don't know if you heard him or not.
we did.
Hey, Bruno.
Hey, you were saying
Okay, so
hi.
did all right. So did you have something comment for us?
Just everybody, I know you want to get involved and you want to help, and just be careful. There's a lot of bad people out there. A lot. And they
there's a
claim
lot
to
of
be
good
part of
people
the
out there.
Patriot movement. Yeah, make sure you ask and get references and talk to other people and make sure you know that the person that you're working with is a good person to be working with.
Now,
you know what I
Barbie,
mean?
can they call up the Patriot Information Hotline and get information from you?
Yes, they can. They can call us at 559-726-1300, access code 639939 #. Again, that is 559-726-1300, access code 639939 #. You can find us at patriotsinformationhotline.com. That's Patriots with an S, patriotsinformationhotline.com. You can find us on Facebook under Patriots Information Hotline. We have a page that you can like. We have a closed group. Just ask to join. We'll let you in. Not very many rules and regulations out there. We just try and post the truth and nothing but the truth. Apparently that makes some people mad. We are the sister network of We Resisters Radio, and I think that's enough plug-in for my network at the moment.
Oh, okay. I think what we need to do now is we need to go back to Colby because I know we also interrupted him at one point. So, Colby, in the spirit of fairness, it's your turn.
Oh, wow. Come back to the ADHD 20 minutes later. Okay. Well, nice plug. I've never checked you guys out, so I'll definitely do that. But there's a lot of things people can do. I mean, locally, it was funny, Gavin was talking about those people that sit around and watch their reality TV shows and drink beer. Well, I'm not one of those guys, but I do sit around and watch C-SPAN, check the internet, and find out all the information I can, and sometimes I'm usually drinking beer. So there's different ones of us out there. But that's just because I'm
different degrees, right?
Different degrees, you know. Some people like, you know, gold diggers. Other people like researching government officials, unfortunately. But, yeah, it happens. And there's a lot you can do. I mean, unfortunately, we just had a bill passed here in my county recently that gave the U.S. Marshals more power than our constitutional sheriffs. So I have to grip with the reality of what that is, and I have to read through it and make sure it's what I was told it was. So it's not
how does a U.S. Marshal have more authority than a sheriff? A sheriff is the ultimate authority in any county. Am I not right on that?
Constitutionally.
Exactly.
Constitutionally, yeah.
Constitutionally, yes. Apparently, I didn't catch it, what they were passing, when I watched. And that's the thing. It's like I'm sitting at home, you know, with my 2- and 3-year-old watching the county commissioners meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning. But, you know, over my cup of coffee. But,
yeah, everybody else is watching
life.
Good Morning America. Colby is watching CCTV.
Yeah.
Well, it is the best cartoon out there.
The kids are like, it's time for my weekend. Where's Doc McScruffins, man? Come on, you know. But that's not my life. Unfortunately, I heard them pass it. I didn't know what it was, and I was informed by one of my delegates today that it wasn't something good. And when I heard it, it didn't sound good. So I'm going to read over this. He emailed it to me, and hopefully it's not what we think it is. But yeah,
Colby, I'm sorry. Colby, I apologize for interrupting you, but that was terribly rude. I'm sorry. Help me understand. The county commissioners decided that a federal marshal had more authority than the county sheriff?
Yes.
Am I understanding this correctly?
Yes.
My.
That is supposedly what happened. I've got to go read through it. The person that read through it is someone I trust extensively, with credibility, and he read through it, and he's like, Colby, if I'm not mistaken, this is what this says, and he's a lot more knowledgeable than I am. I read through things, and usually I pass them by him, or he proofreads my.
I would expect something like that
stuff,
from the
yeah.
state level. I wouldn't
I
expect
guess
something like that coming from the county commissioners.
Jackson County is a little different, but we roll that way.
Well, that's disheartening either way. It doesn't matter how different the county or the county commissioners are. Boy, I thought I had gotten over this tongue-tiedness, but I guess I haven't. But it doesn't really matter. Corruption is corruption is corruption. And if they have done that, then that is definitely a signal that this is a corrupt county commission. And that needs to be dealt with swiftly and decisively.
And that's the thing, is we have 2 of those going out right now and 2 coming in. And we have a good idea of what side one stands on and no comprehension on the other. But this is the thing, is like people don't really pay attention to county elections. They don't pay attention to any elections. What they do is, like he was saying earlier, they turn their TV on, and whoever comes over the most, they vote for. If they agree with them, or they agree with a commercial. And it's even, like I was saying earlier, with the money doesn't matter. The money does matter. Sorry, it does matter extensively, because nobody cares anymore. They've realized that their vote buys the same thing either way they vote, and even if it's someone that has no money, they don't feel any pride in them because obviously they didn't raise enough money, so nobody cared enough, is their quote-unquote reason normally. There's a lot to pay attention to on county, on city levels, even in just congressional districts. There's so much to pay attention to that no one actually looks at that needs to be paid attention to. Freedoms are lost on a daily basis through water rights, through hikes in your electric bills that are unconstitutional as hell, through your water bills. I mean, we passed a $34 million levy through the through the city after the city people voted it down. The council voted it up, the city people voted it down. And it happens all the time in this state, and people just let it slide. No one stands up for anything. They don't care. We have to get the voice through these people that if they stand up, something will flipping happen, because no one cares about standing up. They sit down. They don't even back anything. Abundantly ridiculous, because people do. They just sit on their hands. They care about it for a second. I mean, the most outcry I've ever seen in my life is when they tried to ban pit bulls. But that's because everybody owns a pit bull. So 6,000 people join a Facebook page in under 2 days. And then, boof, what do? They don't ban pit bulls. Hey, people, that was a point in time where you could have seen something valuable. When you stand up, they shut up.
Exactly.
People don't get it, though.
All right, Colby, we're starting to run out of time here, and I need to make sure that Ellery gets his last word in. So what we're going to do here is, Barbie and Colby, thank you very much for sharing with us tonight. Then I'm going to go to Ellery now, and we're going to let him get his last word in, and then we're going to let Loki and Brandy get their last word in, and then I, of course, get the final word.
Well,
all
hopefully we're out of time by then. But.
All right, so Ellery, I'm going to give you just a couple minutes here. Speak your mind, get your last thoughts in.
Yeah, just take a second, like you just said with the pit bull thing. You know, you get 6,000 people in a very short amount of time, and people see that, they back down some. And, you just got to stand up for yourself. You got to teach your kids to do that. You got to teach them right. And hopefully their generation, we've done something for their generation, we hope, And, I think that's about all I got to say. And I thank you guys for not being like that mainstream media and not corrupting everything. You guys did an awesome job today. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, and thank you for allowing us the opportunity to interview your son, a brilliant, brilliant young man. He's going to go places in life, and thank you for raising him properly.
Yes, thank you very much.
Concurred.
All right. Now, and of course, come back and listen to the show again. All right. So we're going to move on here. And Loki, I'm going to let the lady go first because that's only the right thing to do.
Fine.
Oh, his bitty feelers are hurt.
I know.
Aww. I just was so happy to be a part of this
and
to witness this, and it brings back an excitement. I was speaking with a friend, and he asked the question, do you really think that there's hope? And I had met this guy several months ago, and I was a pessimist, and he told me, believe in miracles. The American people have risen up before, and he's not American. And so understand that there's a new hope, there is a movement brewing, and there's an undercurrent. Colby, people care. It might, the perception might be that they don't, but they do. And we just need to rally them all together and maybe kind of unify the base a little bit and get everybody on the same page. But there is hope. We've done it before against insurmountable odds. The United States of America should not be here. We are.
And yet here we are.
Here we are.
All right, Loki?
You got to keep talking. There's too much time left on the clock for Drew.
Yeah, we got to fix that.
No. The rally that they did up in Olympia, Washington was perfect. It woke a lot of people up. Hello.
Go ahead.
It woke a lot of people up to make sure that a bogus law did not get passed. So that's awesome, and we can all stand together and do the right thing and be heard and make a difference. Again, I'll make a shameless plug on February 9th in the state of Oregon on the state capitol. During the middle of the week, while everybody is in legislature, we will be doing a rally there under the heirs of Patrick Henry Northwest. So make sure you schedule your time off now to be at that rally. But as far as the We Resistors Radio Network, you can catch me Sunday night, where I will be talking once again about LGBTQ issues and dealing more with stress and health issues. So those are issues that not only affect the LGBTQ community, they affect everybody. And I will have a very, very, very special guest on the air with me. So make sure you tune in, 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, 8 o'clock Eastern.
And now, with that, we're going to talk about Loki's very, very, very special guest. We have a wonderful announcement to make. Brandy Medina has agreed to appear on the We Resistors Radio Network, at least temporarily. And she may be on Saturday with Chuck.
Possibly.
Possibly, right. And she will definitely be on Sunday.
She will be with me on Sunday.
With you, okay.
And then the We Resistors Radio Network will be airing a special edition on Monday night, so make sure you check it out.
Exactly. Now, Brandy, what I want to do is I want to talk about you just for a few minutes here, and let's tell people a little bit about your background so that they know what to expect from you when you're on Chuck's show and on Loki's show.
Sure. I came to Oregon from the foreign land down south about 10 years ago, and bought a little business. And as a result of that business, I found that keep in mind that I had spent so many years in the corporate environment and escaped from it and was a stay-at-home mom for a while. And then I found that I had this affinity for people and for compassion and for listening to what their needs were. And what would happen is I would listen to their issues, and somehow a resolution would present itself. My business is health and nutrition based. I do nutritional therapy where we identify through a long process. My average intake takes about 2.5 hours. We identify nutritional deficiencies and ways that we can address those, usually by diet and lifestyle, hopefully. Sometimes we do. We have to look at supplementation.
So when you say lifestyle, are you saying that Loki has to become straight again?
No.
No? Oh,
no,
okay.
No. No, but there's things that we do to our health, and this is not a commentary on lifestyle at all. Our world is toxic. It just is what it is. So you could be out in the middle of the forest and still be exposed to toxins that are going to impact you nutritionally. And Loki and I will actually be discussing that in great detail on Sunday because, for example, the liver performs over 500 separate conjugations a day. For those of you who think conjugation, big word, I don't know it.
Isn't that something to do with the word to be?
Yeah, you change a chemical, a substance. Let's use tryptophan into another chemical or substance, 5-hydroxytryptophan, that can be then used by the brain. But without that conjugation, it's useless. And so, unfortunately, the liver, is a huge part of our health and nutrition. And because of the society in which we live, we're toxic. And we don't convert a lot of nutrients. And keep in mind that 200 years ago, an apple had 250 milligrams of calcium. And now it has something like 20.
So I just have one request for Sunday's show.
Okay.
You're using awful big words. So
I know,
make sure
right?
you bring some crayons and pictures.
Okay. All right. And excuse me. Welcome to the We Resistors
Thank
Radio
you.
Network.
Glad to be here.
And we are happy to have you here with us. Now, Colby, I need to talk with you just for a quick moment. Now, on the rally that we're having on February, we have a big surprise for people. Is this something that I can talk about yet, or is this something I need to keep hushed up yet?
Maybe I wasn't alerted to the surprise yet today, so no.
Oh, okay. No, we aren't ready to talk about this yet. Oh, okay. Never mind, Colby. I thought you would have the inside scoop on that, but apparently not. All right. So, no, we're not ready to talk about the big surprise yet. That's too bad because it's a wonderful surprise. It's great.
We do have something in mind that will be huge.
Huge.
It's bigger than a bread box.
Much bigger.
So just stay tuned to the We Resistors.
But it's smaller than a 747.
It is smaller than a 747.
Yeah, barely.
Barely. So just stay tuned to the We Resistors Radio Network for updates, or you can actually join the Heirs of Patrick Henry Northwest Facebook page for little teasers and little bits of information and a way for you to get involved for pennies on the dollar.
Exactly. So now, if we didn't tease the hell out of that, I don't know what. I can't think of a way to tease that even more. So if you want to know more about it, you need to keep tuning into my show on Thursday nights or Loki's show on Sunday nights, and we will keep teasing. I'm such a tease. Okay. Anyway, thank you, everybody, for listening tonight. On behalf of Loki King and Brandy Medina, I'd like to just say thank you all for listening and participating. Thank you again, Gavin, for appearing on our show tonight and sharing with us your experiences and your knowledge.
And organizing such a successful rally.
Exactly. It was phenomenal. I was blown away. Probably the second biggest thing that happened in the last couple of years. The Bundy Ranch being the previous one. So, all right. With that, I think we'll go ahead and wrap up the show tonight. Unless you have anything else you want to say, Loki.
Tune in Sunday night, 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 Central.
All right. And you have an email address, don't you?
I do have an email. It's LokiKing@WeResistors.com. That's LokiKing@WeResistors.com.
All right, and I'm Drew Forseti. I could be reached at DrewForseti@WeResistors.com also, or you can reach me at DrewForseti@gmail.com. Either way, I should get my WeResistors is .net, isn't it?
Yes, it's .net.
My WeResistors is DrewForseti@WeResistors.net.
He's backwards.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't matter. If they went to .com, I'd get it either way.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. And as always, be happy.
Be healthy.
Be well.
All right.
And be safe.
And be safe. Good night, everybody.
Good night, John Boy.